Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you all for being here. I would thank all the associates of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce for participating in our Amazon Tech seminar. I'd like to thank all the distinguished participants, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, Ambassador of Israel in Brazil, and the Vice President of Brazil, General Milton Mourão, and all other participants of this event. I would also like to extend very special thanks to the directors of Brazil Chamber for the efforts and dedication to make this event happen. This seminar has the idea of presenting a new point of view of the global leadership in the 5.0 economy. In other words, the value of technology to economic growth and social evolution. With this, nothing is more appropriate than providing a meeting of advanced technology from Israel with the experience of entrepreneurs and professionals from Brazil, where we will have debates from specialists and the presentation of technologies that are brand new from Israeli companies. The Chamber of Commerce of Brazil and Israel celebrated its 60th anniversary with the objective of increasing commercial activities between Brazil and Israel and facilitating business, facilitating transfer of technology and support for entrepreneurs. Along these lines, the Chamber of Commerce Brazil-Israel has defined as its priority goal for the next few years, first of all, to decentralize the Chamber of Commerce, creating regional offices throughout Brazil, enabling entrepreneurs from all over Brazil and in various sectors having access to technology and startups in Israel. We have an ocean of opportunity in Brazil in the areas of agribusiness and sustainability, and Israel can help us a lot in that. And to show in practice from the theory, we opened in this month of November, the regional office in Mato Grosso, where we have the center of agribusiness in Brazil with the election of our regional officer, Alexandre Fulan. And currently we have the pleasure and satisfaction of inaugurating the regional office in the state of Amazonas with the inauguration of our regional director, Romanef, who is with us. And we are sure that she will do a brilliant job. Ilana, welcome. Good luck in your new job. Another issue of our goals is to facilitate for entrepreneurs and companies in Brazil to have direct access to Israel with the installation of subordinate or having their host company in Israel, so we can have easy access to global investment and technology. So Israeli startups have an appeal for their value by access greater than any value, with a value of at least 5 times more. So we will continue to undertake the mission that we already had undertaken with success of bringing Brazilian entrepreneurs to Israel, visiting investment funds, universities, startups, etc. And now I have the pleasure of inaugurating Ilana as our regional director and passing the floor to Ilana. Ilana, if you please. Thank you, Renato, for the welcome remarks. I'm very proud to represent with the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce my native state of Amazonas, where my family put down roots over 120 years ago. Although we are geographically distant, Israel and the Amazon have various synergies and complement each other in such a way that economic cooperation seems more than logical. Bringing together the region that has the greatest tropical forest in the world with the country that has the greatest reforestation efforts in the world is certainly a challenge that promises great results. On the one hand, human knowledge and technology, and on the other hand, the natural resources, abundant natural resources. These are the ingredients of this partnership that we are beginning now. And the chances of success are enormous, but they only depend on our efforts. Now we will hear the remarks from the ambassador from Israel in Brazil, our friend Yossi Shelley. Yossi, Your Excellency, thank you once again for being in our seminar. Please, you have the floor, sir. Good morning, everyone. Today, the 26th of November, the opening of Amazon Tech. Amazon Tech is the first event of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce in the Amazon, and this is a great initiative of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce and also from the Embassy of Israel. What do we want to do in this event? First, as you all know, the Amazon, it has a great deal of potential, and it's a great possibility, a world of possibilities, but there's more than that. The Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce is already working in more than 8 states throughout Brazil, and will open more and more regional offices. The Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce will promote the connection between Brazil and Israel in technology, knowledge, and also in partnerships. And the Amazon has a great deal of potential. And we always talk about burning and forest fires, so forth, but nobody really talks about how to develop, how to invest in it, or how great its potential is. I, as a entrepreneur and as an ambassador, I knew a great many people of Israel who want to invest in the Amazon, who want to develop business there, but have to open this Chamber of Commerce, and we have to do these congresses, meetings there, and this is an opportunity to thank all of you. Thank you, Yoshi. Thank you very much for your remarks. Thank you for being with us in this seminar. We will now have a very interesting panel, which is sustainability in the Amazon, thought and coordinated by specialist Ilona. Ilona, you have the floor. Hello, welcome to the panel on sustainable Amazon thought, and I am a civic entrepreneur and co-founder of an independent think tank that works with bringing together research, new technologies, and government policy in the agenda of climate and cybersecurity. The topic of this panel is vital. According to many renowned scientists, the degradation of the Amazon is reaching an irreversible point. If we don't act soon, within a few years, the greatest tropical forest in the world can undergo a savanized process, turning it into a savanna, not just affecting South America, but also affecting the global efforts to control greenhouse gases. This panel seeks to discuss appropriate political and economic policies for the region, which will transform this old predatory exploration economic model in a model of sustainable development that values services in the forest and the enormous potential for development in the standing forest. The good news is that today we have the knowledge and technology to make this change happen. And the private sector and the financial institutions can become the great allies in the protection and sustainable development of the Amazon, not just because of the commitments and sustainability signed, but due to the responsibility of their shareholders, since climate change is already translated into economic loss, and especially due to the enormous potential of impact business that bioeconomy and biotechnology can generate. And to discuss these topics that are so important for Brazil and the world, we have with us some very illustrious and distinguished guests. Professor Jacques Markovitch. He is an emeritus professor of the School of Business and Accounting of the University of São Paulo, of which it was the dean. He was authored works on the management of the Amazon. He's also professor of the Institute of International Relations of the University of São Paulo, member of the Deliberative Council of the Library, and is a member of the Gregor Institute of International Development Studies think tank in Geneva. We also are lucky to have Benis Ben-Shimol Minev, who is the director and president of Bemol and co-founder and counselor of the Fundação Amazônia Sustentável. He was selected as Young Global Leader of and that's how we met. Benny served as the Secretary of Management and Economic Development of the Amazon, and also as a financial analyst of the Goldman Sachs Bank. He has a degree in economy from Stanford and has a master's degree in Latin American Studies from Stanford, and an MBA from the Wharton School of Business. And finally, commenting on this distinguished panel, Mariano Senam. Mariano is a social entrepreneur and co-founder co-founder and director of new businesses of the Institute of Conservation and Sustainable Development of the Amazon, IDESAN, and he is also the coordinator of the program for accelerating investment of impacts in the platform of the Partners for Amazon. Over the last few years, he has worked hard to bring in investments of high impact to enable sustainable business that will promote reduction in deforestation and the restoration of the forest. Mariano is part of the leader network of Lemon and undertakes many initiatives for sustainable development in Brazil. And to start our discussion, I will start with a question for Dennis. I would like to know, Dennis, in your opinion, what are the principles that should provide a basis for the initiatives of sustainable development in the Amazon? Well, thank you, Ilona. Good morning, everyone. I will try here to outline the principles that were mentioned a long time ago by Professor Samuel Bismol, who, as it happens, was my grandfather. And he always focused on 4 aspects. And he said that the Amazon, if you try to deal with it just from one single aspect, you're destined to fail. One aspect, obviously, is the environmental, but development has to be environmentally appropriate. The second is economic. It has to be economically feasible. And the third is political. It needs to be politically balanced. And the fourth is social. It has to be socially just. In general, the approaches, at least from my point of view, in my opinion, that we see undergoing in the Amazon have a extraordinarily environmental focus. And if you don't take into account the other 3 aspects, it will probably be impossible. This is a system where if you move on one side, there will be consequence on the other side. And having an understanding of all these 4 aspects, you gain empathy for the problems that occur in the Amazon. I know that from the point of view of those looking from the outside in, you only see the news of deforestation and so forth. But it is important to note, for example, the extraordinary level of poverty that currently afflicts the Amazon region. But within the forest, it is a poverty that's different from the poverty in the Northeast, for example. It's less dramatic, but it's not any less true. The life expectancy is low, infant mortality is high, incomes are low, and many aspects of poverty are present. And this brings us to the social justice aspect and the economic feasibility aspect. And there's also the political issues, which are very important and necessary to understand the vision of the co-citizens and why they vote the way they do and why they behave the way they do. Just to summarize, I would like to try to bring the topic to all of our citizens, including those who are outside the Amazon, and to find the time to understand what causes, for example, deforestation in the Amazon. It's not a simple issue there. It's not just criminals running around with chainsaws who are evil trying to cut down the Amazon. That is, there are also criminal elements, but there are also many people trying to build a favorable context for their own lives, for their own survival. Thank you very much. You touch on various points which we will be talking about in our conversation. I would like to invite Professor Jacques to complement this important vision that Dennis brought us. Thank you, Ilona. First, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here with you, with Dennis, with Mariano, and for the opportunity that the Chamber of Commerce, Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce, gives us to talk about this topic that you've already emphasized the importance of. I would like to compliment Dennis for bringing thinking of the Samuel Bismol, which is the basis of many initiatives. But the important thing, and what Dennis talked about, is that there is a false dilemma when we want to choose either economic benefits or nature. The thinking of Samuel Bismol put on the same level the 4 dimensions that were mentioned. For this, we need to have good governance. And good governance starts from the well-trained leadership. So somebody who has a person who is imbued with these values that Dennis highlighted, reminding what Professor said. So we also have to have clarity in strategy. We have to have goals, and we need to open this governance to the social agents on a local and regional level. And we need to have this collegiate governance with specialists in each one of these dimensions, people who understand biodiversity, economic aspects, social aspects, political aspects as well. And this group, which is in an open and transparent manner, will work to create the credibility to define important policies with strategic leadership and monitoring of goals. Finally, in other moments, we had the opportunity to hear from Dennis about the importance of formality. And in governance, as was mentioned, it is important to make the Amazon into a space that is of legality, because that legality will attract investment, both for the production chains as well as for the bioeconomy in general, and always treat the Amazon with the humility that it deserves. So we're talking about many domains, and it's always important to remember, for those who are watching, the almost continental dimensions of this space that is shared by 8 countries. So with this is the humility we have to use to look in the long term. We have to have a strategy spanning decades for this, to build a new era, respecting at the same time the sustainability and human development. Thank you very much, Professor Jacques. I think you raised some very key points on governance, legality, and people. I would like to ask Mariano to complement with his perspective. Thank you, Luana. Good morning, everyone. It's an enormous pleasure to be in this panel with Professor Markovich, with Dennis, with you. It is a complementary challenge, and as was very well said by Dennis and Professor Markovich, but I'd like to endorse completely this need for the fundamental principle, I would say, of understanding that there is no silver bullet. It's a region that's very large, and the legal Amazon is about 60% of Brazilian territory, enormous diversity in politically, culturally, economically, and we would be destined to fail if we have approaches, even if they have the goals of reconciling economic development with conservation of nature, but a simple approach or simplified package of approaches will not produce a lasting solution. So I would just like to ratify that. And secondly, I would raise 2 principles. First, the ambition. Dennis has talked a lot about this, and I would like to emphasize that I agree. We have to look with the Amazon with greater ambition. And secondly, the long-term vision, that the solutions will not come quickly. And unfortunately, deforestation is on the rise again, and this has affected our economy very profoundly. So overcoming the situation that we find in now requires a recovery that can take some time. And for this, the investment has to be made looking at the long term, maybe, and the same level that where China, where they developed their economy based on industry, and India did when they had enormous success in investing in education. I think it's a principle that all of us should follow, and this can provide interesting returns. So it has to be clear that the increase of the deforestation in the Amazon should not be interesting for Brazil. It's not interesting for our economy, for good or for ill. The ill is very clear. The recent positions by Angela Merkel, President of Germany, and President Macron, where they have sanctions between Brazil and the European Union. So commercially, deforestation of the Amazon is not good for. It's not good for our economy, with small distortions on a regional level. And on the positive side, I think we missed a great opportunity. Looking to the future, I cannot see the next generations of teenagers that are currently about 15 years old, that 20 years from now, they will be 35 years old, and they certainly will be in a position to make decisions, whether heading their own companies or administering family businesses or family fortunes. I cannot imagine this generation looking to the planet Earth in a way that is separate from the environment. It's a generation that will seek opportunities where new models will bring together the conservation of the forest, mitigation of climate change, and reduction of social inequality. And for this, we have the perfect package in the Amazon, in which we are only going to position ourselves at the forefront if we act quickly. Unfortunately, that's something that we are doing with long-term strategy and in mind and ambition in mind. So that's an important point, and thinking exactly about these new generations that are so heavily connected to the forest. And I think speaking about ambition and speaking also about the potential of this diversity, I would like to hear from Professor Jacques about what would be the best practices that we should be seeking to expand and scale up to provide these impacts that are more expressive, I think, and more urgent that we see in the region, which is generating income and jobs. I think Dennis raised the issue exactly of the population. Without bringing in the people, if we don't bring people along with us, we will not be able to help this forest to stay standing in the long term. So, Professor, what should we be emphasizing and trying to scale up to be able to reach this potential to generate income and jobs in the Amazon? Thank you for your question. And your question makes a lot of sense, because the issue is not just best practices. We have a great many excellent practices. The issue of scale, because having best practices and pilot project or experimental phases, the Amazon is already benefiting from many organizations and NGOs, private sector organizations, some government initiatives. So we have a dissemination of best practices. The issue is scale, and that's why I will focus on the issue of renewable energy, because I understand the Amazon can benefit from a great project of reduction of fossil fuels and endorsement and embracing renewable energy sources as a great promise for the region. Now, before that, the question is, do we have the instruments for that? Of course we do. And so Mariano reminded us of these agreements between the European Union with Mercosur. It's within these agreements that we can discuss the issue of the Amazon Fund, because the Fundo Amazonia, the Amazon Fund, was created in a period where there was, in the area of coordination or articulation on environmental issues in Brazil, there were people, and one woman in particular, with a clear awareness for this type of conciliation between nature and the human dimension. That's why Brazil received more than $1 billion, an investment to invest exactly in what? In best practices. And these funds started to be channeled. And it is lamentable that what happened over the course of these 18 months or 20 months since then was an interruption of the collegiate that would guarantee the transparency and participation of civil society. So now we need to resume these these initiatives and with these resources, and assume renewable energy issues. The Amazon is one of the most promising regions for this energy, especially solar power that generates at the same both economic benefits and quality of life for the population. So it will be used not just to generate power for the use of the people in their homes, but it can be used in boats, it can be used in for refrigerator and transports. And maybe Dennis can provide us talk about his experience in his company bringing the first generation of solar power for commercial and residential use. Solar energy, solar panels, and all the other liquid biofuels are not just sources of energy, but they generate jobs and income. The use of solar panels demands labor, trained labor, both for the distribution as well as for the installation and maintenance of the equipment and for all the operation of those equipment. And this production of biofuels is very labor intensive, especially because its production is based on natural products. So I simply want to underline one single best practice to be scaled up. There are dozens in the Amazon region and we can talk about the sectoral change, but I have no doubt that my colleague Mariano and Dennis will be able to complement this much more knowledge than I have. Thank you very much. I think there's so much potential that we really have to choose some priorities, but I would like to hear from Mariano and Dennis. They talked a lot about bioeconomy of knowledge, biotech. What practices could we be trying to scale up? Let's start with Mariano, please. Thank you, Ilona. I would like to comment briefly about innovation investment that we've done in the region, but I couldn't neglect to take advantage of the opportunity about talking about the Fundo Amazonia that Professor said. It's maybe the only instrument in the whole history, as far as I've seen it, in promoting sustainable development in the Amazon that was able to address the Amazon in a plural way, invested in products of command and control, combating forest fires, regulating land ownership and use, and promoting community value chains and businesses, and did this with humility. Unfortunately, this is a situation where we're in a crisis, where deforestation is on the rise, where the economy of the region is not doing well. With 2.8 billion, I just had the updated numbers in an audience from Justice Rosa Weber, the Supreme Court of Brazil. We're trying to find ways to unlock the fund. So for last 2 years, they have no new contracts, and they have a volume of investments that could be building this vision that we are discussing here, but it's stopped, unfortunately. So that's very sad that we are in this situation. I hope that the situation will be resolved soon, and that it can once again have investments in projects that are essential to test and gain and scale on all these fronts that were mentioned. About best practices, Lona, I will comment on two of them that I have personally monitored. One is a new generation that Dennis has helped us to promote, this construction, new generation of investments in research and development of industries located in the special economic zone in Manaus. There is legislation of providing counter matching investments and was created to encourage these investments in bioeconomy or in value chains associated with the forest or the use of the land in a responsible manner. And we have seen some proposals, and there's a priority program within the special economic zone in Manaus that has presented projects for investment. And in a year and a half of this program's operation, we have been able to take in more than 9 million reais. And without getting into too much details, what I would say is that these are risky projects that demand innovation and new value chains, but there are very interesting projects of adding value to the product, to products rather, that are traditional, for example, that are consumed in the region but don't generate a great a high level consumption. It's more of a subsistence. They don't generate economic value on a great scale. One of them is very interesting, which we're undertaking with a group of research of the National Institute for Amazon Research, INPAR, is to create produce caviar, fish eggs from various species in the Amazon. So I can't see any way to add greater value to the fishing operations than to make a gourmet, for example, of the fish eggs. We don't know what the results will be, but that's an example of how innovation is necessary. And on the other point, a very interesting point that we developed with the company Tensu, which is an industry of components in the special economic zone. It's invested in production of tomatoes. So we made this presentation. But what does tomatoes have to do with the Amazon? Well, tomatoes are in the vinaigrette that everybody eats with the fish and lunch, and the Amazon imports tomatoes from other regions. So we developed ways to produce tomatoes and food in the Amazon, especially and importing less, and certainly, especially if we are able to produce these foods without further deforestation, we will be contributing to the economy. That's one example. Another example I would like to talk about is the program for acceleration of the PPE. So we have been 2 years of operations. PPE is a network of companies, and we're one of the founders of this network that seek to find new ways of promoting sustainable development in the Amazon from the private sector. And we launched an accelerator And currently, we have 2 rounds of investments, and we identified about 250 businesses, in which we accelerated 30, and we invested in 12, volume about 6 million reais. So they are startups, local startups, as we say. They are innovative, but they have as their purpose solving social and environmental issues in the region. And we have had, unfortunately, don't have time to get into it too much, but the message is it is possible. I think in the past, we deposited all our hopes to meet solutions for sustainable development in the Amazon, in governments, in NGOs, and academia. And we are missing a key component to reconcile economic growth, which are entrepreneurs. We have seen a new generation with real fire in their belly and seeking inspiration and new solutions. So that's very inspiring and very innovative. I'm already thinking about trying this caviar. That's great. Dennis, do you want to complement with your ideas of scale? Yes. I would like to complement, talking about what Professor Markovic said, that I think that certainly it focuses on scale. Currently in the Amazon, we have many pilot projects, small examples. We have very few products that will generate sufficient income for 25 million inhabitants that live in the Amazon. It is a region that is extremely populated, or broadly populated, in spite of in many places the population is very sparse. But this scale is very connected, in my opinion, to the informal economy. When you do not have, for example, do not have a formal presence of entire sector of the economy. Some examples: in the entire Amazon, you eat fish, but almost none of this fish is fished legally. All of the municipalities in the Amazon have many saw and all of this wood. These are wood mills, and all this wood is not legally cut, and this extends to all segments of the economy. The trade or commerce. Most municipalities in Amazon have a negligible taxation, which means that the trade is not formal. Let's give you an example from the segment we work in. We have pharmacies in the interior of the Amazon. We are not able to compete with the local pharmacies in many situations. Why? Because there are no doctors, and as there are no doctors, there are no prescriptions. And so if you are formal and only will sell medication with prescriptions, that doesn't work in the interior of the Amazon. That covers all segments of the economy. Without careful formal structure for everything that already works, and everybody plants mandioca, nobody has a license to plant cassava or manioc. As far as I know, in all the indigenous territories, you have plantations either of manioc or cassava, and all of them are illegal, technically. When everything is illegal, then you are not able to differentiate anything, and you cannot scale up anything. Acai is a great example. It's a crop that currently generates a reasonable amount of income, but it is one example. We need 20 times that, and we don't need to go very far. The history of the Amazon has had many products. That Bemol, the company I work for, was an exporter of pauhosa, kumaru, anjiroba, copaiba, many other trees. We have many forestry products, but all of them currently are in very small scale and in a certain level of informality. A second topic I would like to touch on, which is a topic that Mariano today is in the eye of the hurricane of the bioeconomy ecosystem in the Amazon. And it is a very promising segment, but once again, it is very small. Is very incipient. He talked about the Fundo Amazonia. I was in the government at the time when the Fundo Amazonia was being created, and the Norwegians tried sought out a lot of people in the Amazon for their opinion. I said this: I thought they would be better off spending that $1 billion in Norwegians that would send us the best Norwegians to the Amazon. And the concept here is a concept of brains. Brains are better than natural resources. And we never choose to develop the brains of the Amazon. And these small ratio of bioeconomy that we have are the fruit almost of a desert where very little was planted in the past. And Brazil has already made choices to develop brains. I'll give you some examples. ITA was a choice that Brazil made that currently has Embraer. And Embrapa was a choice that Brazil made to develop brains and people that currently we have the soybeans in the Midwest and Proalco and many other examples. But Brazil never made the choice to develop the brains in the Amazon. So everything we do here are incipient initiatives and that don't without a solid basis on which to build an economy. Professor Markovich mentioned renewable energy. We are investors in renewable energy, and we did a medium-sized investment in solar panels here in Manaus. And we are enthusiastic, and we will make greater investments. And this is a sector that's has a great deal of promise, and there are many of them. But in all of them, there are difficulties, obstacles, and we are working on it. But I would say that the two fronts that are probably of the greatest importance, in my opinion, would be to work on formal structure, including people in a formal structure. They can build wealth, have social security numbers and business registrations, and developing brains so we can be more productive. I couldn't agree more. Human capital and creating basic environment to enable innovation. We'll talk with Mariano, but talking about the role of the various social stakeholders in this sustainable development. I think we've already touched on many points. Maybe we could get into more detail about some of the roles, for example, the federal government and the regional governments and companies and NGOs and academia. So each one of you could choose what you would like to emphasize. Let's start with Mariano. But I think it's important. We talked a lot about governance in this conversation, sitting down around the table, and I think about roles. What roles need to be strengthened? Thank you, Von. So I will choose to start by the NGOs, nonprofits, which is the sector that I worked on in and represent. Although I'm a businessman as well, I work helping create businesses and leaving the rest for Professor Markovich and Dennis to talk with more authority about. But I think the NGOs sector plays an essential role and will continue to do so, as it has had it in the past and will continue to have in the future. I think there are many pilot projects, as Dennis mentioned, that are not solving the problem in the short term, but they're planting important seeds so that we can generate large investments in the long term. And I hope that the NGOs can continue over the next few years to play this role. It's important to separate that there are, as in any sector, there are many different types of organizations. The organization that I work for believes very strongly, our mission, our mantra, so to speak, is to find solutions to reconcile social and economic development with the reduction of inequality and conservation of the forest. We don't see any other way forward for the Amazon to other than if these three aspects are not brought together. And we have some initiatives that have interesting success. Recently, we created a company to increase in scale of a project that was looking for building a pipeline that currently major companies that were created by innovation, they were created from a project, whether in academia or NGOs that tested the concept and it worked, and then they moved ahead as they drew out the growth cycle. And we would get a company called Amazônia Grupo Florestal was created in a project of production of to reforest degraded area through the production of coffee in agroforestry systems, and it was created in its genesis from a prize that I won writing a project based on environmental services. It was this prize from Samuel Bishmal that I got from Dennis and his grandmother, and it's very interesting concepts to bring together incentives for farmers who seek to improve their quality of life and put a television in the living room and putting their kids in school, which is very a privilege still for very few in the interior of the Amazon. They have this mission. They look to the economic context of the municipality, and if this project is in the south of the Amazon, it's a very peculiar region. It's very different from other regions of the state, but where you have a migrant population. And the economy was developed especially based on cattle raising or livestock raising. So our proposal was to find farmers who were willing to not follow the illegal operations, as Dennis said, in expanding new areas for livestock raising and to recover so when pasture land is not well managed, it loses its productivity after about 8 years, and they abandon that area and cut down new areas. We convinced them then, instead of cutting down new trees, to reforest these areas with a production or a crop, which is coffee and agroforestry. And so this was financed with philanthropic from the Fundo Vale, and we reached a point that it's very profitable. So it sells coffee and carbon credits, and was selling to Natura, and this year to Fade Textile. And with this, we generate the income to have contracts. We don't call it microcredit, but we promote the implementation of these systems and provide technical support for other farmers, and it's become a company. So we're in advanced negotiation with an investment fund from Europe, and the expectations of the project that we currently work with 40 families, and we're going to include 500 families in the future in 5 years from now. So this type of initiative that comes from NGOs plays an essential role, which is creating a touchstone or reference. Currently, there's no benchmark for a young person who is in Apuí other than becoming a great rich farmer. There's no other benchmark for a young person in Lucas do Rio Verde in Mato Grosso other than becoming a great soybean farmer. So we have great entrepreneurs who prospered in the Amazon, but unfortunately that came at the cost of unsustainable use of our natural resources, and this including deforestation. So we also have to produce a great successful reference or benchmark of a way where you can improve your own life by conserving the forest or restoring deforested areas. And I think the NGOs play an important role in this construction. Certainly, it's the and not or is the important point. It's a moment to add and understanding to work together to thinking about young people and references and expanding opportunities. Of course, I think Dennis will complement that issue of the role of the stakeholders. But let's start by Professor Jacques, and then we'll pass the floor to Dennis to think about what stakeholders we would like to highlight here in their respective roles to deliver the sustainable development that we want to see. Thank you, Ilona. It is important to observe in Mariano's remarks and Dennis' remarks the connection with the title of our meeting, which is thought and actions, because every response that is being given is not just given a response as a concept, but examples and practices that those who participate in this meeting will be internalizing. So I will start with the topic that Dennis mentioned about the human resources, human capital, remembering that our with the University of São Paulo, with the University of Amazonas, with various supporters, including Iacapes, to train doctorate level students who will determine an area of research and teaching and the creation and the teaching of new classes of people. And so I would emphasize the importance of education and vocational training, but I would add the dimension of entrepreneurial education. The tendency of our education in Brazil is to develop competencies or skills, but almost signaling to the finding a job either in the private sector or the public sector. And what we are hearing around this table is that this training of human capital and training talent building and capacity building with this sanitary crisis of COVID, that brings us together by digital means. It's social distancing and physical distancing, but which allowed us to accelerate the digital connections via fiber optic cable. Of course, we still have inequality. Maybe we should place as a goal to starting with the Amazon to have a universal connection through not just satellite and the fiber optic cable, but through a digital quality digital connection for everybody. That would be maybe a project beyond all of the other ones we talked about that would help in the transmission and construction of knowledge, construction of a proactive identity, construction of significant lifetime projects to make each young person a doer, a person who has accomplishments. So through this construction, we can expect from the social stakeholder, they engage into this vision called ambitious and proactive and construction or deconstructive in spite of adversity. And that what the pioneers taught us and that we should move forward with. And there's no lack of pioneers in the Amazon region. From Pará to the state of Amazonas, we will find these pioneering men and women. So with regards to the second expectation, it is the fulfillment of the promise of Brazil. Brazil promised in December of 2015 in Paris to have a to fulfill a nationally determined commitment: zero deforestation by 2030, restoration of 12 million hectares of forest for multiple use. This in the area of vegetable cover and energy sector. We also made other commitments. I believe we should expect from the social stakeholders, not just the federal government, but also the regional governments, companies, and the NGOs to fulfill the commitments that Brazil made. It will not be enough to mitigate the effects of the emission of the greenhouse gases. But if Brazil fulfills its promise, keeps its promise, today we're saying that Brazil could increase its ambition. Great, wonderful. But at least we should fulfill our promises. So finally, I go back to the issue of illegality. It will be necessary for us to promote preventative and repressive actions to combat organized crime. We have in this region, and those who are in the region know better than anybody, we have illegal exploitation of natural resources, and it's a very serious problem, and it irrecoverably destroys various regions. There are cross-border crimes and environmental crimes, and we need to defend a presence of the government in these border regions and increase the support to the local population to avoid these criminal elements to suffocating the entrepreneurial and proactive spirit that will help what Professor Samuel Bissimol always conceived, which is a harmony between the various points or axes. I think these are essential points, Professor. And about this last one, we are also in the south of Garapé looking at these relations of the environmental crime with organized crime. We know that there's a part, not a whole, as Dennis has said, but it needs to be much more clearly established, these chains of illegal crimes, etc., so that the stock markets and financial markets can avoid contributing to these value chains that are unfortunately destroying the forest, and which I couldn't agree more with what you said. So I'd like to hear from Dennis about the roles of the stakeholders, and what would you like to reinforce, Dennis? Well, I would like to focus on our listeners. Our listeners, in the most part, for the most part, are people from outside the Amazon, looking with concern at all the information, in many cases very bad information, that comes from the region. I think that this outside audience has an important role, but it requires a certain understanding. So first, I would like to focus on a topic of diversity. Mariano already mentioned the Amazon is a region that is very diverse. If you were to get the Amapá and Acre, the distance between the two states is similar to the distance between São Paulo and Santiago de Chile, and you would not propose a similar policy for both of those cities. The biome may seem similar in the sense that it's green, but the biome itself is very different. The swamp of Pará, or the basins versus the highlands in Acre, for example. So the first question is get to know a little bit about the region. It is not a simple region. Here we have areas, and maybe a first get up Google Earth, pull up Google Earth and look at the region look how diverse it is. You have natural fields, open fields, where it's not deforestation. Originally, the forest that was that way. You had open areas, open glens. And the second topic is the one of empathy, to understand what the 25 million people that live there think, what they think, and how you can have their interests aligned with your own. I think that, for example, we are in an endless discussion of how to contain deforestation, especially when we seek to contain it in the short term. And then it's very difficult for you to think about deforestation in 2021 or 2022. I would suggest we think about deforestation in 2030. How do we revert the current trends? And then I believe that we have a great deal of control. And reverting deforestation 2030 requires we think about examples that Mariano gave, that agroforestry systems. We have about 18% of the Amazon is deforested, and of these 18%, 80% of that 18% are underutilized. We could have a great program of replanting, reforestation on national level, where you could play a role as a financer, as a supporter, and for this you would have all the support of the people in the region. When you oppose the local economic activities like extraction of wood or livestock, and there are large criminal enterprises, but there are smaller players as well that have political support. But there are many things we can do together. One of them is to seek out what are the sectors that we are interested in, whether acai or reforestation. I think there are some moonshots that we could choose to have for the Amazon, but it requires a level of empathy of the people outside the Amazon for the people inside the Amazon, and vice versa. I think that when somebody recriminates deforestation that happens in the Amazon, in many cases they are not able to have the understanding of where that deforestation comes from. What is the impact of that deforestation on a local level? Perfectly said. I think there are so many opportunities and practices, and I think innovations that are being talked about that we move to the end of our conversation. So obviously thinking about an event, I would like to hear from all of you. I think Dennis started to provide these directions, but talk about the business opportunities between Brazil and Israel that are aligned with these principles that were talked about since the beginning of the conversation, and best practices about sustainable Amazon. Maybe Dennis, if you would like to take the cue, and then we'll hear from Professor Jacques Mariano, and then Mariano. Well, first step is to get to know it, as I mentioned, and having a level of empathy. The second step is the brains. Israel is well known throughout the world for its brains. There, sincerely, is a desert. And what they were able to do in that desert is nothing short of extraordinary in 1 or 2 generations. But why did that happen? Because there was a brain drain from the old Soviet Union, the United States, Eastern Europe, and many places throughout the world, including Brazil in some cases. And these brains flourished there. In the Amazon, we have relatively few brains of the same caliber. So as I would say to the Norwegians, send us the Norwegians, and that would be better than sending us money. I think sending Israelis would also be a great investment for in the Amazon. Thank you, Professor Jacques. Thank you. I would like to, before getting into the issue of the brains, and I fully agree with Dennis' points, I would like to go back to the humility that was mentioned by the size of the Amazon. We had a researcher, a specialist in geography, who said that the Amazon is so great and it extends into other continents. And so we will find flora and fauna centers in the Amazon that are present in the Atlantic rainforest and could be in other continents as well. That means that we have an extension that is absolutely incredible in terms of territorial dimensions, which brings us to Israel, which is a country that is relatively small. So Dennis is correct when he says that the first thing is get to know, because we're talking about such different scales. From starting there, what are the two capitals? We have a capital, an environmental capital in Brazil, and a capital of knowledge and technology in Israel. So the question is how to make these two capitals converge, the assets of technology, innovation, with the resources we have of potential in Brazil in environmental terms, but we also have, and let's not neglect to mention our platform in terms of what we have in INPAD and in research laboratories and in companies here in Brazil. And this brings us to three possibilities. I would start by the sectoral value chains, and maybe we should acknowledge the Israeli experience in defining and improving products from the profile of the demand and not the offer. It's demand driven instead of industry driven. So see what our customer, whether in the States, in the Midwest, the South, this high capital and high consumption possibility clients, what do they want? What is the specific characteristics of the certified product they want to consume? I believe Israel has a long tradition of exportation of fruit and vegetables and foodstuffs that can bring this experience to. So based on our skills and our offer, what we have to offer, and we have to direct that to the demand. And the second is digital and artificial intelligence resources and all the technology that can be applied to the challenges that both Dennis and Mariano know very well, the challenges of logistics and trade and sale of these products that includes forest management and agroforestry systems that were mentioned, fruit, medicinal plants that are consumed in various places in the world, where people come from abroad to get to know and to research and to identify all of this biotechnology through controlling pests and diseases and resources to improve gene pools and propagate species. So we have a possibility to complement the knowledge that exists in the laboratories and research centers in Israel with our own experience that we've accumulated over time. I would end with this issue of the competences, skills in capacity building. We have a concept as well known of circular economy, where we have to reuse the natural resources and reuse what we produce to avoid an abuse of the natural resources. I see that we also have the possibility to create an interaction of business, not just in products, but also in services and also the use of technology. But we need to look at this relations with Israel always as a bilateral relations, which means Brazil has a lot to offer and Israel has a lot to offer. How can we generate this complementary actions between one environmental powerhouse with a technological powerhouse? So these two superpowers need to sit around the table and find ways to complement each other. Excellent points you raised, Professor. Maybe Mariano, you take a little bit about the queue of the opportunities of exchanges of the ecosystem of entrepreneurship that you've been talking about very well, or anything else you would like to remark about this subject. Thank you, Professor Markovic, for these excellent remarks. I would like to take one point from your remarks, is the need to bring together the capital that was developed in technology, innovation, and knowledge, and cultures, and combine this with empirical knowledge we have a great deal of about the Amazon. Empirical knowledge, I would say, with regards to the use of nature, but also with regards to the ways that businesses develop in the many difficulties and obstacles that we face in our region. So the venture building to use a term from business. So bringing a Israeli startup with with knowledge from here, and the startup here from our ecosystem of businesses with impact in the Amazon has a great deal more possibilities for success than just importing ready-made success or ready-made solutions. So looking at the demand as well, we've discussed an approach, and Dennis has participated in this debate with another colleague, Dr. Attila, with regards to structuring a logic of reverse request for proposals. So let me just mention one that has enormous, the value chain of fish. Fish farming in the Amazon. We have to look from start to finish, from the production of food, or if it's native fishing, managing the fishing population until the supermarket. So what can we do to make our fish production more competitive? And here I'm sure that the size of the opportunities is inversely proportional to the investments that were already made. So I am a forestry engineer by training, so I worked with planted forests, and I studied in the University of São Paulo, and it was amazing the quantity of investment in research and development that was invested in the value chain to produce cellulose of reforested areas, especially eucalyptus. All of this within 5 years that I was in. I never saw anything like it in the 15 years I've lived in the Amazon. So I think it's very important to look to this chain and value chains and seek to identify the gaps. I think there would be a great many of them, and all of them together would leverage opportunities for investment long term. But just to close, Ilona, I would like to ask a question I think everybody should ask themselves when looking to the Amazon, looking at Brazil. What should we do to stop this outflow of investment due to Brazil's lack of capacity to fulfill its commitments, whether in the economic area or the Paris Accord? So what would be the great possibility we could have to attract investments in 15, 20 years? Again, we have to be our mind thinking has to be connected to the future generations, which 20 years from now will be 35, 40 years old. I recently participated in a panel on futurology, and a specialist talked about a very interesting piece of data that, according to him, in 20 years from now, it will be so embarrassing for a investor or for an adult who's 30 or 35 years old to invest their money in businesses that are not climate friendly, as it is today, to throwing trash, littering in the streets. So that shows the potential we have to attract investments to resolve social, environmental issues that we face. I have no doubt about that. So after this master class that was this panel is really incredible, and I think we can also get the question of Mariano. Before closing, I would ask each one of you to make some final remarks, a message. What would you like the people watching this to take home from this talk? So Professor Jacques or whoever wants to start, please feel free. First, once again, thank you. I will start with the comments from Mariano. First of all, about the sectoral value chains, and then about attracting funds and financial resources coming from abroad to Brazil. With regards to sector value chains, Mariano, first I'd like to compliment you for highlighting the importance of this structure. We had a research effort about the value chains of fish farming from the fisheries to the municipal market of São Paulo. And what we saw in this research was that the weak point out of the many that existed, but the main weakness was the refrigeration. So in this chain, we don't have refrigeration systems that are reliable to ensure this scale that could be reached, and to be able to ensure we have a quality product and with traceability and with environmental responsibility throughout the entire value chain. There were many stakeholders. One of the major supermarkets in São Paulo set up part of this value chain, but of course we do not have the infrastructure that we will find in very small countries with an enormous dedication to fish farming, like Japan. Japan has an infrastructure of refrigeration for fish farming that is absolutely enviable. We don't have that in the Amazon, and that is an issue to be discussed from the perspective of infrastructure. To finalize, the message with regards to financial resources. We are developing countries, so we need the savings that exist in other countries, the liquidity that exists in other countries, to be able to promote our development with an extraordinary capacity for return on investment that we have. Where did the opportunities lie? We had, after the crisis of 2008, we had the International Bank for Settlement in Basel determined an environmental agenda for what they call today green funds or green financing. And the Central Bank of Brazil, on the 8th of September of this year, brought together the banks to say that starting in 2021, especially 2022, there will be a legal ordinance that obligates the banks to take into account the environmental issues within their operations, credit operations. Finally, there is a liquidity in search of green projects. This liquidity exists throughout the world. Now, for that, we will need a coherence in between the rhetoric of the current and the talk of the current federal government. We can't have sectors of the government like the central bank that are talking about environmental sustainability and a part of the Ministry of the Economy because of the attraction of investment. And we have other areas of the government that shoot themselves in the foot. What Mariano mentioned about the Fundo Amazonia. So we need to have at the top of the representation of the Brazilian state that transcends this. We've had governments before, we will have them later, but we need the representation of the Brazilian state to have a coherence in its posture with regards, or its positioning, especially with regards to environmental responsibility. If we have that, I believe that we have the enormous potential to attract funds to invest in Brazil. No doubt, Professor Dennis, what would be your final message that you would like to give? Well, in line with what Professor Markovic mentioned, talked about infrastructure and investments, I would like to focus on the topic of prosperity. If there is something that is possible for the citizen to do, it is that to contribute to a vision, I would say, for 2030. 2021 doesn't work. Things don't work that fast here. Of prosperity for the region. What does prosperity mean? Prosperity probably means improvement of the quality of life, jobs, entrepreneurship, and building a prosperous economy is a precondition. The deforestation is a effect of a very bad system that generates poverty and all types of evil. That from a global point of view, I understand the focus on the environmental issues. The Amazon has a great significance for the world from the environmental point of view, but trying to get around the difficult scenarios in the Amazon will require an alignment of prosperity in the region. The Amazon, starting, I will call it the end of the super cycle of the commodities and the Brazilian crisis, it entered into a recession that was reasonably profound from which it has not yet emerged. If we don't find solutions, economic solutions, social and political solutions for prosperity, I believe that it will be very difficult for us to push things in a positive direction, environmentally speaking, without pushing things in a positive direction in with regards to the other aspects. No doubt, I think we talked about so many points here that it is possible. Mariano, what would be your final message? Well, I would like to talk about a message of hope. I deeply believe that there will be a growing demand and a growing interest for people, on the part of people, on the part of institutions, that will be decided or committed to invest their energy and resources in resolving social and environmental issues that we face. Remember, social and environmental together, because they're interconnected. Climate change is so serious and so grave, such a grave issue, that with all the access to information that exists today, I believe that the mitigation or reduction of carbon emissions will become a commodity. There are already carbon markets that are growing in various parts of the world. Brazil has been passed up by that. It was a pioneer, Professor Markovich, that the capital of the Amazon funds of $1 billion was a direct measurement of the results that Brazil had produced in reducing carbon emissions. So there will be a growing demand for reducing carbon emissions. And with this, we will create, there will be specialized companies, financial institutions, consultancies, and my hope is that there will be such a great demand to fix these social environmental problems that as well as it will be as big as the market for rice and beans. And we hope that happens quickly because unfortunately the planet cannot wait and cannot deal with the disordered growth that we've been facing in the next few years. So with this message, I would like to express enormous thanks for each of you for your contributions. It was a very inspiring panel, and our thanks to the organizers of the event for raising this topic, and our thanks to the people who are watching us. So I ask you to continue to watch this event. Next, we will have the presentation of the Israeli technology companies. See you later. Thank you very much, Ilona, Dennis, Mariano, Professor Jacques Markovich. It's been very interesting, excellent panel. Let's pass the floor to the next one, and we invite Tatiana Shoah to coordinate the block Israel Tech. We will present Israeli tech companies that have not been seen yet throughout the world. Thank you, Renata, for the introduction. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this historic moment, which is the implementation of the regional office of the Amazon of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce. For us in the Amazon state, this is very important. The Amazon today is undergoing a historic moment. It is showing up in all kinds of news stories throughout the world, the issues related to sustainable development and the conservation of the forest and protection of their traditional populations impacts not just Brazil and the northern region of Brazil, but on an international level. And there are opportunities to have established here in our state a Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce offers with a focus on development of the Amazonas state is very important. And the state government level, we developed a narrative of what we consider to be the importance of the development in the region. We see that we need to be consider two very important premises. The first one, that we believe that the development of the Amazon and the Amazon biome has elements to improve the lives of all of humanity. And it's important to think that we're talking about a different scale, a scale of humanity as a whole, and how can we improve the life of humanity? We have a quantity of resources in terms of food, in terms of healthcare, in terms of the distribution of wealth, but at the same time, we cannot leave anybody behind. I think that is a motto that the UN established in the 2030 agenda, which is very important for the state of Amazonas. And the state of Amazonas, a state where had before COVID pandemic, 50% of the population living below the poverty line. And probably we have a situation that's even worse than before the beginning of the pandemic. Out of these 50% of the population under the poverty line, we had 13% living on less than 7 reais or $1.50 a day equivalent. And at the same time, we have a complexity with regards to poverty in the state. We have poverty that we would know as we would normally understand it, poverty in a metropolitan or urban area. And at the same time, we have different ethnic groups with different rhythms of contact and different forms of interaction with the urban environment. And we have in the Amazonas state about 20 indigenous groups that live in complete isolation. And at the same time, we also have migration processes that are impoverished. We became in the Amazonas region, the Amazon region, a entry point for migrants from Venezuela currently, but we've had Haitians. So we have a complexity of poverty, a complex of poverty that's very difficult. And at the same time, we have a forest. We have the Amazon biome. And we believe that the knowledge of nature and innovation and technology working with this knowledge of nature that is our anchor for our economic development. That's the anchor that we will be able to use to leverage the economy of the state into another level. Thinking in 2030, 2050, some decades in the future, a way to form of development that has in its science and technology and innovation its great engine. Now we have a great challenge, and that is, how can we bring this development and this biome into our reality? How will we transform the potential of the forest and of its rivers and of its peoples into economic and financial assets, and very importantly, industrial and political assets as well? We have as an advantage, a comparative advantage, the biome, the Amazon biome, and the state of the Amazonas has its special economic zone in Manaus. The industrial policy established 50 years ago promoted and structured an industrial ecosystem and innovation ecosystem that is significant. We probably are the only state in the north of Brazil that has an industrial center and an industrial ecosystem that's well established. Probably the only one in the region throughout the Amazon, and maybe the only place where we have standing tropical forest, where we have a industrial ecosystem that is well established. Now, how can we bring together the forest on the one hand with the industrial policy on the other? So how can we make this connection between these two axes? The bioeconomy certainly is an element that unites us. We need to think about models for industrial policy and new companies and new processes that will make use of biodiversity and of the potential in nature through science and technology and innovation. But that's not only that. There are, due to the law of information technology that was passed in Brazil, we have enormous installed potential for IT. In the Amazon, we have human capital established in the Amazon that is skilled to work in topics of what we've called, together with the digital center of Manaus, the digital bioeconomy. So how can we incorporate new technologies to the production processes and monitoring of the forest and public safety, healthcare, and food production? And also, the Amazonas has a great potential of the creative economy. So how do we develop not just the tourism sector, but the sector of audiovisual production and all the other sectors that are important for the bioeconomy and for the creative economy in the state? But for this, we need to rethink and strengthen our model of the special economic zone in Manaus, and the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce has come to help in that sense to attract new companies and the possibility for articulation and bringing development into the interior of the state. And more importantly, and that's the strategic aspect of this Chamber of Commerce, to make partnerships both on a commercial level, as well as in attracting investment to the state, as well as partnerships business to business, B2B, to be able to strengthen the existing businesses here. And in my case, specifically as Executive Secretary of Science and Technology, academic and scientific partnerships as well. Israel has a potential for debate and for conversation of topics that are of great interest to the academia here in the Amazon. So we should highlight that the Amazon today has a process of bringing science into the interior that's very significant. So if we get regions that are very distant from Manaus, to give you an example, we get the triple border between Brazil, Peru, and Colombia in the height of the Solimões Mountains. Between the municipalities of Tabatinga and Benjamin Constant, we have 50 doctorates or doctorate degrees. We have the Federal University of Amazonas in Benjamin Constant. We have the State University of Amazonas in Tabatinga and the Federal Institute of Amazonas in Tabatinga as well. And with the support of the federal government and the Ministry of Regional Development, we are implementing a scientific and technological industrial park in this region. It's a great challenge in which the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce in the Amazonas office has as its focus of its actions. So it's interesting to think that our initiative is not just for Manaus. Manaus, of course, is an important center, but it's also for the interior, the other regions of the state. Together with the Amazonas State University, we recently implemented the Rainforest Social Business School, which is a business school for the forest, in which we expect to have partnerships with great impact that are very impactful partnerships with Israel. So our event of inaugural event for the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce office in the Amazonas has this purpose. Initially, we will be working very hard with our President Inev so that this Chamber of Commerce can play a social role, an economic role, and cultural role at a very significant level in the state. So I am in charge of introducing 3 panels right now. The first panel, with regards to possible companies that might be of interest for high technology in the area of biodiversity. I will also introduce a panel with regards to healthcare companies or technology companies in the healthcare sector, and I will introduce Kleber Coelho, who will talk about the potential partnerships in the area of public safety. We understand that initially we brought just some companies as to demonstrate potential. We are very interested in knowing about what other companies are interested and what researchers both here in Amazonas as well as in Israel have an interest in partnering with us. We are open for collaboration, and we would like to encourage anyone who is watching us to get in touch with us by the email amazonas@abril, BRIL, at .chamber.org.br, and will indicate what partnership they would like to make, what university they are interested in partnering with, if they already cooperate with Israel in terms of research, if they have interests in working on specific topics that did not show up initially. We want, starting next year in 2021, to have a timeline of work to strengthen these effort of cooperation between Brazil and Israel in the state of Amazonas. So enjoy these first panels, and it's a taste and appetizer of what we have ahead, and we are counting on everybody's participation and support. Thank you for watching, and I will introduce our first panel, which is the panel on biodiversity. The biodiversity panel, we invited 4 companies to present their work. We selected these companies with a view toward strategic areas for the state of Amazonas. The first company that will talk is Citri, which is a company that works with a network of intelligence that uses drones and artificial intelligence to monitor crops. And we see enormous potential there to start to work with technologies and drones and artificial intelligence to monitor both crops in the Amazon, but also with regards to products that are extracted, especially those that are extracted from the rainforest. Second company that will present here is DuckTech, which is a company that is specialized in analyzing the depth of water. Obviously, for a state with a great many rivers like Amazonas, being able to incorporate into our monitoring system ports and waterways and channels and canals, incorporate high technology for analysis of depth of water is extremely important. The third company is a company called Melodia, which has an industrial process to extract nanocrystals of cellulose to build bioproducts like packaging. This is an area of bioeconomy that we very much want to develop in the state. We have research in the state university and federal universities that can grow a great deal in collaboration, in partnership with the private sector and with this type of sector that works with nanocrystals for cellulose products. And we believe that this can be an area of with a great deal of potential for new development in the industrial sector. And the fourth company we will present is Planet Watchers, that has solutions in software as a service, what they call SaaS, software as a service, that monitors natural assets in nature, not just monitoring in terms of quantity, but also with the possibility to preview risk of flooding and forest fires, etc. And the idea is that we have monitoring in real time through artificial intelligence of the rainforest and the rivers, and that's very important for us to continue to keep the rainforest standing, and to continue to work on issues such as illegal mining and all the other threats of illegal extraction of lumber that face the forest. So these are the four companies that will be part of this panel, and I hope you enjoy it.
Imagine, what if we could map, digitize, catalog, measure, and monitor the health of every single tree in the Amazon? How much could be gained if we create this capability? We believe a strong light of wisdom would be cast on the darkness and uncertainty of the vast rainforest. This would be a huge leap forward in our decision-making and management capabilities, enabling us to save the plants, enrich their health, and optimize the biodiversity of the ecosystem. My name is Israel Talpaz. My background is 33 years in the Israeli intelligence community. I am the CEO and co-founder of C-Tree. Just 3 years ago, we at C-Tree imagined a system that tracks and records the health of every single tree in mega farms. Together with our clients, we established the first of its kind intelligence network for trees. Because like them, we believe that every tree counts. I have learned in my previous life, as well as my current life, that the first step in dealing with extremely complex problems and threats is to create an integrated intelligence platform and network. At times, this may be the most important step you take in meeting the challenge. Thus, we recommend taking the next step in saving the Amazon and optimizing its biodiversity by creating a digital, plant-centric intelligence platform and network. The intelligence will lead us in making smart decisions and performing effective actions. We have no choice but to be very smart regarding this complex challenge. The platform we create, the Amazon Intelligence Network for Plants, will be based on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, digitization and cataloging of every aspect of Amazon plant life. Pillar 2, plant health assessment and monitoring system. Pillar 3, biodiversity optimization and research tools. How do we do all of this? We do it by running a campaign, a multidisciplined and highly collaborative marathon. Step 1 will be data acquisition, utilizing multi-layered sources, satellites, planes, drones, rovers, and sensors. Step 2, data analysis. We will utilize the cutting-edge artificial intelligence capabilities we have with vital human intelligence that you have. Step 3, creating the network and connecting all users and relevant players. Step 4, we repeat constantly, learning and improving over time. Saving the Amazon rainforest and understanding its biodiversity is a huge challenge and a massive campaign of efforts. We have the vision, the values, the technology, and if we collaborate, I believe we can get this done. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, my name is Uri Yoselevich. I'm the CEO and founder of DocTech, and we are building digital twins for waterways. My story began back as a naval cadet. when the first vessel I embarked on hit the ground on the way out of port. And when we were dragged back and put in the air for dry dock for 3 months, I thought about that there's got to be a way that we can better utilize the enormous amount of data that we have on board to avoid similar incident in the future. So I've put together a great team from both maritime and data science domain expertise, and we've come together with a vision to empower maritime stakeholders with data insights. The challenge that we saw, both in ports but also in rivers, is that there's lack of depth assurance. You want ships to be as full as possible on one hand, but then they get closer to the ground. But on the other hand, you have to maintain a safety margin from the ground to make it safe. So there's kind of a trade-off between how full you want to go and how safe you want to go. And to top that, the authorities that are in charge of keeping the water deep are spending enormous amount of effort just to understand what's going on and to keep it deep and safe for navigation. So we've come up with the concept of a digital twin. A digital twin is a digital representation of a physical object, in that case, the seabed. We are creating the digital twin by integrating all sorts of data together. And the most exciting data that we got is data from vessels that we call dynamic data. We are collecting sensor data from onboard vessels that are creating enormous amounts of data day in, day out. And with this, we are able to create a real-time monitoring platform and even a depth variation prediction. So think if you want to go from point A to point B, you can log in and see the conditions a few days or even weeks ahead. We are targeting ports, port authorities, terminal operators, as well as inland shipping companies and barge operators. But we are not alone. In Brazil, we've partnered with the biggest maritime service provider, Wilson Sons. Together, we are already deployed in 2 of the biggest ports in Brazil, Port of Santos and the Port of Rio Grande. And we are deploying our very first vessel in the Amazon River in just a few weeks. So stay tuned. We have several projects in all 3 different continents, which we are very proud of. But what's next? With a digital twin, you can have a lot of other advantages, such as risk analysis for ships. With the data that we are creating, we are building the infrastructure for autonomous shipping in shallow waterways. And we are even creating training sets for autonomous algorithms. And because we have a lot of environmental data, we are able to create a better weather forecast. So this is us in a nutshell. We are super happy and excited to be here. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions and comments, please feel free to reach out to us at this address. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Shaul Apidot. I'm one of the founders of Melodia, an Israeli-based startup company, and I'm the CEO for the last 5 years. Please show my slides. So we're a company working on biomaterials as alternatives to fossil oil-based materials, trying to change the way that we are producing a lot of products in the world. One of the main issues that we are dealing with is with plastics. We are using plastic to pack a lot of consumer good products and food products. The plastic gives very good protection and long shelf life to those products, but the main problem is that after we're done using those plastics, they will end up in the environment, in the seas, in the rivers, in the forest, in the air, and that's creating a huge pollution problem. And this is obviously very, very relevant also to the Amazon, one of the richest or the richest ecosystem in the world. And that creates a lot of pressure on the ecosystem there. We see those pictures, one of the rivers from the Amazon. And the pollution is not only found in the water or in the soil, but there is also evidence that it goes into the animals, into the actual living creatures in the Amazon. And that creates a very, very large risk. And we have to deal with that and develop new technologies for packaging that will change and eliminate this pollution problem. So Melodia is working on a very special material. It is called cellulose nanocrystals, or CNC, simply CNC. It's a material, it's a building block that exists on all plants on Earth. It's strong, it's light, it's transparent, it's a potentially very good raw material that we simply extract it from fibers, from plant fibers, in a technology, special technology that was developed here in Israel, and we apply it globally, and particularly in Brazil. We have an innovative extraction technology, meaning we start with plant fibers and we apply our technology and we extract those naturally produced crystals. They naturally occur in the plant fibers, and we are extracting them in a process that we develop. And we're developing products where the main focus is packaging. We're developing coatings that we apply on paper. Paper has been around for many, many years. It has great strength, but it doesn't protect the food as good as plastics against oil, against vapor, against aromas, and all kinds of these substances. Once we apply Melodia's coatings, we get paper that gives you the very similar properties to plastics in terms of protection. We're focusing on different types of paper packaging, taking away the need for plastics or aluminum. And the best part is that after you're done using our paper-based packaging products, you can simply throw it to the paper bin. And unlike plastic that will be accumulated as waste in the environment, the materials that will be packed with the Melodia products will be recyclable, renewable, or compostable, and eliminating the pollution issue. The interface with Brazil is through Carbine. Carbine is a partner and shareholder in Melodia. It's a strategic partner. We develop the products together, and Carbine is one of the largest producers of industrial forests. And this is being done very far from the Amazon. So if we are seeing a lot of deforestation problems in the Amazon area, Carbine is operating in Paraná State, which is about 4,000 kilometers south of the Amazon, planting a lot of artificial forest, all to serve and to supply fibers for the pulp and paper industry. And Melodia is collaborating with Carbine to implement those very same technology that were produced here in Israel and implement them in Brazil and develop sustainable packagings to serve the Brazilian or South American market. CNC is a part of packaging can be used in many other applications. So imagine CNC production in Brazil, in Paraná area, that can serve also 3D printing, paint additives, fibers and textile, printed electronics, and many other applications, as we indicated here. Our technology is recognized by the global community. We have an award-winning technology. We won the most important prizes in the largest packaging exhibitions in Europe, FatchPack in 2019 and Interpack in 2020. We're already collaborating with the largest food manufacturing and consumer good companies, all dedicated to change the way we are packing products and to eliminate and improve the environment in our earth, and in particular in the Amazon area. So I'm very happy to present the company for you and hope that we will generate a new future together. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you today. My name is Roy Shiloh, co-founder and CTO at Planet Watchers. Planet Watchers is all about extracting information from satellite images. It was founded by ex-military people, and we are specializing in analyzing synthetic aperture radar data. One of the main benefits of synthetic aperture radar is that it can work in all weather conditions. If we compare radar to optical data cannot see at night half of the time and cannot see half of the daytime because of average cloud cover, which only give us 1/4 of the potential time to take imagery. By using SAR data, we can have a 100% window of opportunity to take imagery. Another nice property of synthetic aperture radar is that it is sensitive not only to the top of the object or the vegetation that we are monitoring, like optical, but it is sensitive to the different layers of the vegetation, providing very meaningful insights. One of the services we developed here at Planet Watchers is crop cycle. Crop cycle is about identifying what crop was planted, where, and when. For example, we can monitor very large areas and determine the planting dates of every field in the area. In this example on the right, we can see this blue color. This is a field that was planted on May 12th, according to our analysis. And here on the left, the black field was not planted by that date. One other capability is crop classification. We are able to look at very large areas, countrywide, and differentiate between different types of crops. In this example, we are looking at soybean, corn, and cotton crop classification. On top of the planting date and the crop type, we are also able to very accurately determine exactly how much area was planted. And by the end of the crop life cycle, we are able to determine the date of the harvest, when and how much of this operation took place. All of that we achieve using radar data, which can work in all weather conditions and has a global coverage. But why is it so important? If you look at this example from North America, there are 187 million acres of cotton, soybean, and corn that are planted each year. Today, the information about the type of crop and the acreage is only available somewhere around mid-August. With our solution, we can provide the planting dates as early as May and the crop classification during June. Another service we have developed is response. The ability of this service is to identify field level and sub-field level crop damage at very large scales. In this example, we are looking at a hurricane that hit the central parts of the US last August. By using SAR analysis, we can identify each and every damaged field. Here we are looking at an example from the state of Iowa. Our analysis is not only sensitive on the large scale, but it can also provide insights at the field and farm level. If we zoom in, you can see the different levels of damage in each one of the fields. The brighter colors indicating larger damage. Again, why this matters? If we look at this storm named Derecho, it damaged more than 37 million acres of corn, mainly in the US, and it took more than 100,000 man-hours to do the assessment of the damages on the ground. With our response service, we are able to deliver those results under an hour. When we combine the crop cycle information on the planting date, the crop type, the planted area, with the response damage maps, we are able to determine exactly how many acres or hectares were damaged, which crop was in those hectares, and exactly what was the area of the damaged crop and to which level it was damaged. And by this, we can prioritize claims adjusters. We can provide very meaningful reports to government and other agencies in near real time. How we work. So basically, the one thing we need to know is the area that we need to look at, which is usually provided by our client. And of course, the required deliverables like the crop cycle or the response services. we take care of the satellite imagery. We are working with all of the major data imagery providers that are using synthetic aperture radar data, and we bring the best one for the solution. Then we process the data using ground truth information or additional data sources that can support the training process. And we process it, we generate the insights, the reports, the relevant layers, and then we distribute them using many different software or our own web application or API. Thank you for inviting me to give this talk today. And for any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Now we will talk about the panel of healthcare. The Amazonas state is one of the states that has made most progress in telemedicine or online medicine. We've had a decade-long project, one of our universities, with a lot of success in areas such as dermatology, and we have many professionals who are already trained to work with greater impact to strengthen the healthcare in our state. In the healthcare panel, we will talk today. We will hear presentations from three countries: Kinaga, that works with medical device, non-invasive medical devices. So this idea that we can bring to the non-urban areas medical examinations where you don't need to do surgery, you can work with diagnostic devices that are non-invasive. That's very high technology and very important for the state like ours, in which the distances are considerable, in which we have all this difficulty in movement for the populations, especially the traditional and populations and riverine peoples, and to bring in and incorporate more technologies and develop technology on a local level in partnerships with the companies of Israel. That is one of the objectives of this panel. The second company is waze, has a foot in telemedicine, so we would like to strengthen this sector of telemedicine even further, and we would very much like, as a state government, to become a international hub of telemedicine, and from here we could export products that are useful throughout other tropical rainforests throughout the world to improve the quality of life of the population of those locations, not just the Amazon, but all around the world. And the third company we will hear from is Space Pharma, that does research and works with research on microgravity and implements miniaturized laboratories of extremely high technology that can be very useful for elements of specific diseases in critical moments. And we can very quickly build some laboratories in order to attack problems in specific regions or specific branches of rivers. And there are three initiatives in which medicine has important gains in innovation in its processes and products. And for us in Amazonas, it is essential that we have this entry into this new world of telemedicine and these non-invasive processes for diagnosis. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you make more contents and bring to us other experiences so that we can strengthen this sector both in entrepreneurial and industrial terms as well as in research terms for our state.
So, my name is Ziv Gilboa. I'm the CEO of Sinoga Brazil. That it's part of Sinoga Israel. Sinoga, it's a medical device, non-invasive, one of the leading in the world. We are in Brazil in the last 5 years and running several projects, mainly in the Amazonas. We was choose to come to the Amazonas together with the hospital in Cor, that is one of the leading hospitals in Brazil. And the reason that we went to the Amazonas is to support the people. We understood that In order to support the area, we have to support the village and the people that living in one of the most beautiful place, but a really remote place. And the way that we choose to do it is by finance and supporting a project with a medical device to support the part of the health of the population. I would like to give the ability to speak about the work for Chris. She was the one that eventually running the operation in the last 4 years. Chris, para você.
Hello, my name is Cristiane. I am a nurse. I am here with Nurse Devoneci, and we work in a boat ambulance that goes through the Amazon region, providing healthcare to the population that lives on the rivers and to the traditional population as well. We've worked, we use Canal with for provide medical services and dental services. And when the patient arrives, they have a triage, and this device has helped us a lot to do a better triage and to monitor this patient better, because many times they are not able to do a hemoglobin exam, for example. With this device, makes it much easier, and we store the data of this patient in the computer, and when they return to the boat on another visit, we can compare the results previously and what they're doing, the current results, to see if the medication we gave him had the desired effect and if there was improvement or not. And in this issue of the family planning and pregnancy and prenatal care, this device is very important because we are able to monitor. Many times this pregnant woman does not have prenatal care because they don't have a healthcare team to take care of this pregnant mother. Many times it's the first time she has any kind of health care is when this boat docks in the community, and we can do examinations that until that point had not been done, and there we can do provide nursing service with good triage and with the tests we can offer through Kinoga. And there, the doctor will be able to prescribe medication to help at this moment and this for this pregnancy until the birth of until this pregnant woman gives birth. And so this issue of having this partnership with Kinoga has been great for us to be able to help us in providing care for these patients. And beyond the work that we do in the boat, we also do work with other organizations through by plane, sometimes on foot. And so we have arrived at a population that's that lives very far away from healthcare centers. So many times for them to get healthcare, they have to travel for hours by boat to reach a small city that has a small clinic or a nurse that will help them. And so many times when they arrive with that patient, we are able to do the monitoring, provide the correct medication, and the patients show significant improvements.
So we would like to thank you all, and eventually we believe that we can increase the project to achieve more remote area and to support more remote population. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, U of MD was established in 2007 as a pioneer in the telemedicine area. We actually the first company in Israel and mostly in the world that started with telemedicine solutions. The company today is doing a lot of comprehensive solutions in healthcare, especially in telemedicine in rural areas.
Our telemedicine solution is very unique, which is also affordable. We have planned a device which we call EW Care that is equipped with a tablet, very easy to operate. We are putting the software inside, This device can be connected to more than 15 different medical devices in the clinic. The medical devices can be bought in any store, except that they have the capability of running a Bluetooth communication. And this device will be located in remote area. We are now doing projects in the Amazonas or in the interior of a neighbor country like Suriname, and we are now negotiating with Guyana. Clinics that are sitting in the woods in the Amazonas are being equipped with this device. The nurses that are located over there are collecting data from the patient and then transferring a request for consultation to doctors who are sitting either in hospital or medical call center, or sometimes we have projects that those nurses are sending requests for consultation to doctors sitting in a different country. Like we've done a project in Kenya, Nairobi, and the doctors were sitting in Athens, Greece. So we are actually cutting the distance between a doctor and a patient in order to bring better health to places which are not accessible to doctors, and it takes too long and too much effort for patients to come over to hospital in the big cities. In that way, we are giving kind of equal service to those citizens who are living in remote area or in the Amazonas. We are saving lots of unnecessary expenses like traveling. Sometimes the insurance or the Ministry of Health are financing the traveling of the patient from their remote location to hospital. We are cutting these expenses. Sometimes the patient himself is going to travel while he is sick to the near big city, might be 200, 300 kilometers away, and we are saving him money. And the second capability is to, in no time, to have a specialist consultant do intervention in this case. For example, cases which the general practitioner in our call center will see the patient and immediately they think it might be very good to show this medical record to a specialist. They can transfer the medical record, the electronic medical record, to a specialist sitting in a hospital to get the consultation right away. So that's how we are closing the gap of distance for those patients.
One of the projects that we are doing, and actually we had a pilot a few years ago, and today we are on our way to a full implementation of the project, is in the Amazonas, in Rumeria area, in the north of Brazil, in order to give the Indians in the Amazonas healthcare services, which the main clinic is located in the hospital in the capital of the district. These services are cutting a lot of expenses. Instead of sending doctors, instead of giving the patients the services only in the main cities where they have to travel, we are bringing these services to the patients. Another interesting project that we are doing and are showing actually a huge success is in the Israeli Defense Forces Army, where there are remoted bases that don't have the capability to have the first or primary care doctor consultant. So they are using these systems in order to have the primary care consultant on spot in the bases instead of sending the soldiers to the hospital. Another project that we have is in the US, which is involved with the veterans of the US Army, which are using the system at home in order to have home care services.
What are the leading impacts of telehealth on healthcare quality? I'm now quoting for research done in 2018 by the HIN, the Healthcare Intelligence Network. And there are 7 parameters that have been measured. The patient satisfaction was increased to 90%. The medication adherence increased in 20 out of 35, maybe 70%. The health complication reduced by 30%. The patient compliance to doctor's order increased by 45%. The medical errors reduced by 26%. Access to care was increased by 90% in telehealth. And diagnosis accuracy, which is the last parameter that was researched, was raised by 70%. These are the benefits that are well known of telehealth solutions in remote area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Brazil, and welcome to Space Pharma Control Room here in Israel. We would like to thank you for this opportunity to participate in the 3 minutes for this innovation in Brazil. As you know, life science in orbit and using microgravity is one of the important domains for humanity in these days. Where in orbit, there is no gravity, we can do a lot of things. And for that reason, we would like to have the Amazon zone region to play a big role in this environment. The harsh environment in orbit is very similar to the harsh environment in the Amazon. But as the Amazon has a lot of enriched trees, a lot of insects, materials, seeds, and plants that can be used by us, we now can propose you to take these and lift those up to orbit. But why to go to orbit? Orbit is very far? Not exactly. Only 500 kilometers above us, we have the Dido-3. This is Space Pharma satellite, little CubeSat in orbit that helps scientists and other players to improve their lives here on Earth. So what we propose to take your liquid handling system to orbit and to use the Amazon materials and compounds to improve your life here on Earth, starting with seeds, going to cosmetics, and improve longevity and aging here on Earth. After many years in orbit, we know that the abundance of gravity is one of the factors that can help us to improve cosmetic compounds, cosmetic materials, sunblocks, even beverage polymers can be built in orbit and then inject to our day-to-day goods, day-to-day beverages, and day-to-day sunblocks to protect our life. So we really believe that the Amazon zone can help us a lot by handling this in orbit. And we propose Brazil, scientists, as well as commercial players, to improve your life, to improve your seeds, to improve your plants growing, and to improve how to infect insects while growing a lot of soybeans, for example, by growing a lot of new fruits, vegetables. And this is the beauty of taking the Amazon to orbit. I would like to appreciate the opportunity and to work with any one of you who would like to explore and do a lot of fascinating things in orbit. As you can see just behind me, we are orbiting Earth 16 times a day. Every 90 minutes, we can provide you all telemetry, all data, and let you play as an astronaut, although you don't need to be there, while you stay in the Amazon, stay in Brazil, and doing a lot of innovation for your beautiful people. Thank you, and I wish you all the best to do things together. Explore space with Brazil.
And our third panel, which is upon security, Israel currently has an important technology in terms of public safety and security of assets, etc. But to introduce this panel, we invited a specialist in the area, which is Mr. Kleber Coelho, who is CEO and founder of the Bembras Defesa e Segurança company and a founding partner of Bem Macro. He has more than 25 years of experience in the market, and he works with artificial intelligence, drones, and other forms of intelligence to deal with issues relating to security and safety. We believe that the Amazonas, as a border state, has many challenges to be overcome with regards to the securing our borders, securing our rivers, securing your populations, and safety of our population. And we believe that using intelligence for safety and security is very important. And so I introduced to you Kleber Coelho, who will kick off our panel on safety and security. Good morning to all the participants of this seminar. I would like to thank Jack McGee and the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce for the invitation to coordinate this segment on defense and public safety. Bembras is a company that integrates and distributes technological solutions in this field and represents some of the major Israeli companies that develop cutting-edge technology for this purpose. It's with great satisfaction we selected some partners that will present solutions for some existing demands to support the Brazilian government, the private sector, and the great challenge of protecting the Amazon and our borders. Especially, we brought companies that bring responses to coastal defense and border control, controlling piracy in the Amazon rivers, protecting the population, and providing service for emergencies. As you all know very well, the Israeli companies have in their DNA security par excellence and are leaders, global leaders in this segment. That includes transportation, communication, command and control, monitoring of areas, intelligence and innovation, developing some of the most advanced technologies in the world. These companies have the know-how and knowledge to support the efforts of protecting the Amazon and its inhabitants. We're working together with Bembras, with local entrepreneurs. We intend to cooperate with the development and protection of the region. We also know that the Amazon has a continental size, so we intend to divide this challenge into broad solutions and affirmative solutions of varied reach, involving protections in layers of large range like satellites, low range like radars or communication systems. The Amazon does not just tropical forests, borders, and rivers, but also includes important urban centers, and that is where most of the population lives. Some of these innovative solutions can contribute a great deal to the reduction of crime and enable government agents to save lives with providing more assertive, rapid response to emergencies, increasing the well-being of all the citizens. We have today with us, with great pride, representatives of the companies Avignon, Septier, and Carbine. And we will present now some slides that illustrate these solutions that we propose here. Well, in the slide presentation, we don't need to talk about the size of the Amazon, but our idea is to protect people and territories. So we have solutions for protection of population in urban areas, emergency response solutions, the infrastructure solutions as well, combating piracy. We also have solutions for major events and border control, which is a great problem in the Amazon because of its size, of its dimension of its borders. We also have a global vision for transportation infrastructure, monitoring of areas, control, intelligence, communication, information, all of this connected, interconnected in a solution with a third key platform. We also have the proposal of integration of this command and control centers that are pre-existing. We have satellite monitoring, of course, as we've spoken about. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I would like to take advantage of this moment to introduce Mr. Yaif Levi, who is the Vice President of Business Development of the Avnon Group of Israel, to move ahead. Thank you.
Avnon Border Control and Protection Solution was designed to deal with the multi-complex environment of the Brazilian Amazon that defines with long maritime and ground borders in a dense rainforest with difficult terrain conditions for passage and poor vision and communication. Our multi-level customized protection border solution combines satellite, mobile, and broadband communication solution for rural and remote areas, as well as smart satellite solution for Earth observation of larger areas of satellite images, including historical available archives and continuous updates in each 5 days of the Amazon area. On the ground, we offer multi-sensors system of detectors, radars, and optics cameras for various ranges with day and night observation in complex environment, also with multiple energy source and wireless communication. The long and impassable Amazon borders required a smart and efficient aerial solution for observation and airspace protection. Non-integrative border protection solution offer fully autonomous UAV solution that are divided in stationary squads, each equipped with smart observation kit and responsible for 300-kilometer interval border zone. The proximity of strategic facilities and strategic military bases in the Amazon of the borders with Venezuela, Guinea, and Bolivia requests comprehensive solution for the protection of Brazilian airspace from UAV and drones. Using the modular and multi-level Avnon anti-drone and UAV system will enable the Brazilian border forces to anticipate and rapidly respond effective to drone from level of detection and verification of neutralization. Since most of the large Amazon border is maritime border, mainly rivers, and comprehensive border protection in the Brazilian Amazon demand integrative underwater sensor and patrol boats. In Avnon protection solution, we integrate underground and underwater sensors implemented in shallow rivers, ensuring detection in real time of movement between river shores, enabling quick response with our full equipped patrol boats. All our underwater, ground, and aerial sensors and solution are all connected to one command and control center with GUI for full situational awareness and control all the system sensors. That's it.
Thank you, Yadif Levine, for your presentation. I now introduce Mr. Ziv Levine, Vice President of Customer Management of the company Septier Communications, also from Israel.
Septier Border Solution was designed to deal with the multi-complex environment of the Brazilian Amazons that is defined with the long maritime and ground borders. Our multi-level solution is combined out of airborne and fixed systems on the ground for remote areas. The system is operating in all mobile phones, versions, and cellular operator. All of Septier sensors are connected to one command and control center with a unified user interface for a full situational awareness and control of all Septier sensors. And now I will move to the presentation. Septier Border Solution is designed to help the end user to deal with the following threats: terrorism, organized crime, and illegal immigration. The system main capabilities are detect and extract cellular profile of every device in the target area, obtain the location of those devices, extract calls and SMSs from and to those devices. In the next stage, a tactical team can get to the final location of those mobile devices. The system is operating in two modes. The active mode, which is strategic location of interest, where all movement is controlled and all suspicious targets are identified, tracked based on a predefined flying route. The passive mode, which is an area where all targets are required to secure system, but are not considered as targets. The system components are the airborne units, an highly advanced SIGINT unit which can be deployed on a UAV in order to avoid all the geographical limitation of the area. On the ground unit, a very advanced sensor which is being deployed locally in order to allow to acquire all mobile phones in the system coverage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ziv, for your presentation. We will now introduce the CEO and founding partner of Carbine, Mr. Amid Elishai. The company is a new generation of 1911 in the world. Thank you, Amid. That's your floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amir Elichai, speaking from New York. Pleasure to be here today in the Israeli and Brazilian Chamber of Commerce and to share about Carbine solution. I founded the company 6 years ago after I've been robbed in Tel Aviv Beach and thought to myself, how come it's that still in the 21st century, we need to deliver so much information for emergency services in order to get a proper response. Today, the company working with more than 100 governments and serving more than 500 million people with great team, and that is basically here with the one mission, to save lives and to help cities like the Amazonas to basically fight crime and to be able to use the best technologies in order to save lives. The world has changed, and now it's clear to everybody that there is a big need to do kind of a change in all what's related to emergency communication and the ability to share information with decision makers. When we are analyzing what is missing, we are talking about real-time information, all what's related to interoperability, cloud services, and basically what we've realized that places like the Amazonas, where they have very big cities and different crime rates and crime kinds, have don't have the right tools in order to fight crime. So what Carbine is basically built is what we call the emergency collaboration platform that is giving the governments that we are working with a very powerful ecosystem that will give them an awareness and ability to fight crimes and to give the right resources and the right response to people where they need it the most. So every call that is coming into the emergency services within the Amazonas will be equipped immediately without need to download any mobile application with a real-time location, real-time video, real-time images, real-time chats, and much more. And all that will be presented in a very intuitive way into what we call C-Live Apex or Universe that will be provided to the cities and to the emergency first responders that are working with Carbine. Carbine has launched together with Google a very strong service called Emergency Location Services, currently giving service to more than 100 million people in Brazil. Again, there is no app. This unique service that launched for the first time with Carbine and Google in Latin America and Mexico is giving the ability for citizens to dial to 911 and immediately to provide the location of the person, which is key, especially in places like the Amazonas, where it's very hard to find the people, a lot of tourists, a lot of people that are traveling. And now if you want to find them when they're dialing 911, we have the ability to provide it with integration to Google Android systems without the need to download any app. When you're leveraging Carbine solution, basically the cities and the state are leveraging from a very powerful ecosystem that is giving a very strong awareness of all what is happening within the territory. It's starting from the citizens and the best tools for the citizens, but going all up to the city levels and the state level and give the right decision makers what they need at a very accurate manner. We are working, as I said, in 100 governments around the world, your neighbors as well, like cities like Mexico City, State of Mexico, and some others. And we are seeing a great benefits for the agencies that are using Carbine solution, where they are reporting actually savings because of the fact that they are leveraging the powerful ecosystem that Carbine is providing to governments all around the world. Specifically for the Amazonas, is a great place with a lot of tourism, with a lot of natural resources, where the crime rate is going up and people are feeling not safe. The ability to use Carbine solution and to give this kind of service to your citizens, we are seeing it as a great tool that brings great benefits to decision makers. And basically by incorporating Carbine, the Amazonas will be able to get much more sense of security to their citizens and help them when they need them the most. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to speak here today and hope to hear from you soon. For more information, just look at our website, carbine911.com. Looking forward to hear from all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amir, for your brilliant presentation. Thank you all. Our thanks to all the other presenters talking about solutions in security and defense. I hope we can provide technology with more technology, working together to resolve the problems of the borders and problems of communication, problems of emergency response, and the theft and robbery of boats and piracy. So thank you very much and have a great event. We've reached the end of our three panels. I hope that you who are watching us have enjoyed them, and we are open to criticisms and suggestions. We want the participation of everybody. We want to strengthen the links between Brazil and Israel in the state of Amazonas, and we want to strengthen collaborative research between the universities of the state of Amazonas and the universities and research institutes in Israel. And we would like to have the participation of everybody, and we would like to have more indications of companies that are of interest and institutions, research institutes and researchers that are interested in being partners in our region. For this, please get in touch with us in the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce, Amazonas Regional Office, so we can together build an agenda for the next 2 or 3 years. I thank you very much for participating, and I hope you have a good day. I would like to call Luis Felipe Adaime, who is a great specialist in the area of carbon credits. He is a partner of Amos and can talk about new issues and important issues for us in the area of credit carbons. Thank you, Luis, for your presence. Please, the floor is yours. Hello, I'm Luis Adaime. I am a CEO and founder of Cellulose, that in 7 months was created in the beginning of 2020, has become the largest platform for carbon in the world. And I've come here to talk about this alliance, which we tried to implement and promote between technology and environmental activism. The goal of MOS is to save the planet. It's very ambitious. And more specifically, to reduce to zero the deforestation in the Amazon. And how do we do that? We are a large retailer of carbon credits, which means that we provide a great curate a clearinghouse, and we select the best carbon credit projects in the Amazon, in Brazil, all of Brazil, but specifically in the Amazon. And we participate in the Ethos platform, which is a foundation that selects projects. And after a lot of visits and negotiation, we determine what we consider to be the 6 best projects for conservation of the Amazon. They are enormous projects. We're talking about 150 to 200 million hectares, to get 1,000 hectares rather. The New York is 70,000 hectares. São Paulo is 150,000 hectares. So 6 projects. We're talking about 1 million hectares, which is the size of a small country like Qatar or Jamaica. And so these projects, through their activities, they certify that they're protecting the Amazon, and independent audits on a global and international level come to and certify that activity, and they generate digital certificates that are called carbon credits that are sold and are recognized throughout the world and are sold to major companies which seek to mitigate their environmental damage or their impact through greenhouse gases like Apple, Nike, Google, Verizon, Unilever, and all these major companies that in this drive to protect the environment and combat climate change over this year have announced increasing neutral pledges, which are commitments to neutralize carbon emissions. Well, once the projects are selected, we enter into contracts to buy and sell them, rather to purchase carbon credits and provide carbon credits over the next 2 to 3 years, and we sell them to retailers as retail. So this clearinghouse business and companies that buy carbon credits has existed for some time. Our great differentiating factors use of technology. We encrypt the carbon credits and put them in blockchains, which leads to the carbon certificate or carbon credit has a great security and a great deal of credibility and a great deal of transparency. And we are the first to do this with the greatest possible scale. We are the largest tokenizers of carbon credits. The process of the carbon credit sector and certification of carbon credits has increased significantly, but has a gigantic potential. To give you an idea, throughout the world generates 55 billion emissions per year, of which only 12 billion are mitigated by companies through the purchase of carbon credits. So there is a potential growth of 43 billion tons per year. And the great challenge for humanity is that this number of 55 billion tons will be reduced to something around 25 billion, which was the number 12 years ago, and that mitigation will increase from 12 billion to 25 billion. So when both are equal, 55 go down to 25, and 12 billion of mitigation goes up to 25 billion. You have a meeting in which the world neutralizes all the carbon emitted, in which probably it is too expensive for companies to pollute. The more carbon intensive companies to pollute becomes too expensive, and you have incentives that are strong enough so that environmental projects can be increasingly created and expand to generate these carbon credits. It is an inexorable trend. I think the effects of climate change is extremely evident, increasingly more so in our day-to-day. The fires in California and Australia, the extreme record temperatures in Europe and throughout the world in both summers and winters, increasing flooding throughout the world, and the new generation of the millennials, who are already 30% of the global population and 50% of the economically active population of the global workforce, are increasingly numerous, and they are increasingly powerful, economically speaking. And for this generation, environmental activism and protecting the planet is increasingly important. So there is a inexorable structural trend of increasing mitigation and pressure on companies by investors and consumers for them to do that. And the objective of our company is to help to accelerate this process of this sector through the use of technology and innovation, such as artificial intelligence, such as geolocation, especially through tokenization or placement of carbon credits into blockchains. Thank you very much, and warm regards to everybody. And I now invite our Vice President of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce to moderate the panel on the environment in the point of view of the largest Brazilian companies. Guilherme, please take the reins. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, mediating this panel on this topic that's so important and so present today throughout the corporate world. And I have the honor to be here with three important personages that are very representative of the Brazilian GDP and all the ESG. And Cândido Bracha, president of Itaú Unibanco, Davi Pfeffer, president of the Administrative Council of Suzano, and Miguel Krisner, founder of the Grupo the Boticário Group. Welcome, welcome. So I will start asking Cândido to talk briefly. We know that Itaú Unibanco has a very consistent agenda in the ESG pillars, environmental, social governance, and has played an important role in this sense. So I'd like to ask Cândido, how does a financial institution how can a financial institution contribute to the environment? Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Guilherme, Miguel, Davi. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this event. I have the impression that a financial institution contributes to the environment through its practices, normal business practices. And Itaú, since 1999, has showed a great concern for the environment and has participated actively. We are the only bank in Latin America that since 1999 is in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. We were the first signers of the Ecuador commitments in Brazil, and we incorporated the environmental in our credit analysis into in the asset investment analysis since the beginning. And this is something that is not done by philanthropy or selflessness. It's because it's good banking practice. And in point of fact, we see that the companies that respect the environment and the companies that have environmental concerns tend to have much better results. So it's in our interests, and that we approve credit and we take into account when we approve credit, and we inform our clients that where we see points to improve in the environmental axis, we also will learn from our clients about that. And the investments that we do through our fund administrators and the funds that we received from our clients or depositors, that we know not just have here 95% of the portfolio of companies that went through the environmental filter, but we also have products that are dedicated exclusively to companies with a focus of the a stronger environmental focus. So to answer your question, the way that we take care of the environment is to include the concerns and priorities of the environment in our routine operations, and that we encourage the best practices in that area in this manner. Thank you, Cândido. Davi, in the case of Suzano, Suzano's business is intrinsically linked to the tree, the motif of the tree, and it's related to the core business. So how has Suzano faced all these challenges environmental speaking? Miguel, it's an enormous pleasure to be here with you, together with Miguel and Cândido, and with you, Ron, and thank you very much for the invitation from the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce. This event is a very relevant one, and it's an excellent proposal and an excellent initiative of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure that it will be transformative and is very relevant in the world today. And Suzano thinks our thoughts is that the organizations should be active agents in the construction of a sustainable future. We in Suzano have done this for many years, and even before that became fashionable, or the term didn't even exist before, but especially with regards to sustainability, due to the fact that we've worked with trees, and due to the fact that we know that the trees are living beings, and that if they are treated well, they will respond well. And so we adopted a posture voluntarily many years ago to try to be a staple in every way every possible way for using sustainable cultivation, using technology and common sense and experiences, not doing anything that can force or stress the environment or nature or harm it. And on the other hand, doing everything we can to improve the environment. Just to give you an idea, we have about 2 million hectares, and of these 2 million hectares, more than 40% are voluntarily preserved. On average, we would have to have a preservation of 26 or 27%, but we have more than 40%. So it's a very large area that we dedicate to preservation, because we know that there are important biomes and important ecosystems and important fauna and flora. So this responsibility that the company has is perspective, really, a perspective that has translated into results that are concrete results. And I'm very happy to share that in 2003, we looked ahead and we said this: let's establish our basic principles that will guide our work over the next few years, because Suzano has a very long-term perspective. Suzano thinks in terms of centuries. We want to leave the 21st century better than when we entered it, and we know that to leave the 21st century better than we entered it, we need to work in a very balanced manner, very consistent manner, and very disciplined manner. And we designed three pillars, essential pillars. One is a meritocracy, one is reference shareholders, and one pillar of commitment with all of the stakeholders in 2003. And at the time, we weren't talking about that. Nobody was talking about that. That wasn't part of the normal vocabulary of companies. And we are very happy that now it's 2020, and this commitment with all the stakeholders, not just the shareholders, but clients and suppliers and the communities and employees and associations that the lobbyists, all civil society organizations, with nature, with the environment. And this is incorporated and is part of this corporate governance. So we're very happy. And once again, Suzano was a pioneer in making these commitments, and it's working. That's great, Davi. Congratulations. Doubtless, this practice is incredibly mature in Suzano after 17 years. Well, Miguel, tell us a little bit about the foundation, the Boticário Foundation, which has a great history in conservation and the fight for conservation of the planet. So tell us a little bit about the story of the history of the foundation and what's been done until today. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, for the invitation, especially because the inspiration of the foundation, the Boticário Foundation, comes from Israel. And speaking some years ago, in a visit that I made to Israel, I was extremely impressed with the work of the oldest institution connected to the environment in the world, the KKL, the Carbine Israel, which I think this year celebrates its 100th year of existence. And basically, that institution was created for the purpose of bringing flowering in that area in the Middle East, which was totally dominated by sand and rock and desert. And through a wonderful project, they were able to create funds through donations from Jews throughout the world, with the purpose of every $5, they would commit to planting 5, 10, 15 trees. And it was a wonderful project that at the end of the day, when we go there, we see those gardens in the middle of the desert. When I came back to Brazil, I thought about how I could do that in Brazil, implement an idea like this one initially within our own business, our own company, and I decided to create a certificate at the time that would say that for every X many reais, it wasn't even reais at the time, we commit to planting X number of trees. But when I talked with a forestry engineer, I was a pharmaceutical, I was a pharmacist by training, he said, well, but how many perfumes do you sell? And I said, well, 40 or 50,000 fragrances. And he said, well, have you ever imagined how you plant 50,000 trees per month? And I told him I had no idea what would be involved, but he said that was extremely complicated. He says, since you're so interested in environmental issues, why don't you create a foundation? And so I researched and found out how it worked, and we brought together a very high-level team, and we created the Boticário Foundation. And initially, we had a purpose of supporting projects of scientists or professors that had a great deal of difficulty in raising funds to finance their research. And then we committed that 1% of our net revenue, gross revenue, will be directed and continue to be directed to environmental issues, especially those connected to research. And after 30 years of existence, this year we celebrate our 30th anniversary, we were able to do a spectacular job in financing 1,600 projects connected to the environment, discovering of many species, and especially a characteristics more conservationist that we've been trying to pursue throughout this time. Wonderful, thank you. Well, Cândido, recently Itaú joined Bradesco and Santander banks in a project for development of the Amazon. It's a very interesting project and brings together the three largest private banks in Brazil. Now, what motivated this union of the three banks, and how does this project, what is the ambition of this project, and what progress has been made over the last few months? Look, Guilherme, this is a project that causes me a great deal of joy. It's an enormous challenge, but the fact that three competitors that compete so intensely were able to join forces to learn about the Amazon region and to dedicate themselves to protecting the environment in this region and developing together with the local population, I think that was a very important step. Our idea is to work according to in 10 axes that basically divide into three groups. One group seeks to a zero ratio of illegal deforestation. Through a number of measures. Another group of measures seeks to encourage sustainable crops in a local level, like cacao, cocoa, and nuts and acai berries, etc., and to encourage bioeconomy. And the third group that is very important deals with infrastructure, whether infrastructure for the local populations, such as access to the internet, transportation, etc., or the essential issues of land ownership. Since most of the farmers that are on the edges of the forest don't have title to their land, and without titles, they don't have the possibility of obtaining financing, and thus they are induced or driven to behaviors that are harmful to the environment. Now, we, in a project like this, is done with a great deal of determination, with a great deal of ambition, but also with a great dose of humility, knowing that you need to first learn about the region and that it is not something that's simple. So we formed a board of consultants with 7 specialists in the topic with various different perspectives on the topic. Each bank has its own social environmental team, but our teams have done profound research and we've learned a lot. And yesterday we had a meeting between the 3 bank presidents with their teams to learn how the acai value chain works and how the value chain of cacao works and how to finance this cocoa. And it is a great learning experience. It is a problem that is complex and multifaceted. The final objective is, and it is a project that will last a long time, is that for us to be able to have measures that show, that stimulate or encourage the local landowners, that encourage them that if the forest is standing, that's more lucrative to them than the forest cut down. So we not only limit illegal deforestation, but we limit any kind of deforestation. So we can achieve zero deforestation in the region, and we can work in a collaborative manner to make this happen. Naturally, we can't, Rome wasn't built in a day, so just the financial sector by itself can't do that on its own, but maybe it can encourage and cooperate so that we can reach this objective in the future. Doubtless, a great initiative. David, for some time, at least about 1 or 2 years, we've been talking about innovatability. Tell us a little bit about what this vision of Suzano is with regards to a more sustainable world. Well, to reinforce a little bit, take a step back and reinforce what Candido says, Suzano, the new public, the supply of lumber, doing a report of zero deforestation for our supply chain in the Amazon region. So congratulations to everybody, especially those who are dealing with this issue. And it is a topic that we believe very strongly in. And we believe in the issue of sustainability, and we believe in the issue of innovation. And it was the union of these 2 words that we call innovatability. So it's innovation plus sustainability, which is the measure that we see to face the great challenges of the 21st century in a manner that is mature and that is sustainable for the bioeconomy. So we are we're taking a position that's very aware and very bold and very courageous to seek solutions for the greater society as a whole, through bioeconomy, substituting in this way the products that come from the petroleum chain to those that are carbon negative. And through the trees and planting the trees that capture CO2, we have a great contribution to reducing global warming. And it is a positive footprint that is very favorable to and our company's been doing that for some time now, over some years, as you mentioned. And I can mention an example. We are partners of a company in Finland called Spinover, which is a startup that is almost 3 years old now, and is a company that uses liquid cellulose, which is type of cellulose production to copying what the spider does, and they weave a type of thread that is done with this cellulose that is used by the textile sector. So it's the first fiber that is most sustainable that exists that has no negative impact, only positive impacts, both in terms of carbon footprints as well as recyclability. And this company that is called Spinova is working together with the major clients throughout the world to develop products and textiles and cloths and clothes and backpacks and jackets and things of that type, textiles based on a product that comes from trees. That's an example. We have other examples in the area of products to substitute plastics and rubber, etc. So Susano believes that in a reasonably short period of time, for innovation matters, we can offer solutions that are very clean and very positive footprints to society. Incredible, wonderful. So speaking of recycling, Miguel, Boti Recicla is a reference in this theme. It's a program that's exists for some time, supporting cooperative efforts. Tell us about this program. In reality, it is a project of reverse logistics, where through our stores throughout Brazil, we are able to basically have a return and collect the used containers that are brought by our suppliers to be deposited in our stores, and we deal with these wrapping, and there are cooperatives that do the recycling, or at least dispose them better than we could, better than just throwing them in the garbage. And this has been an activity, a project that's very interesting, because it also brings to the consumer a increasing awareness of the importance of the process of recycling that has to exist, so that we can have greater sustainability in the planet. So it is an initiative that has won us many awards, many prizes, and it's one way that the company that sells cosmetics to be very close to the issues of preservation of the environment and the issues of sustainability, as with other things that we have been doing. So since the substitution of raw materials, for example, the plastic, we have used plastic made of alcohol, a type of plastic from Braskem that we purchased to use in our wrap packaging, and a concern with the entire value chain of our manufacturing and stores to deal with the issue of sustainability very competently. Last week, we inaugurated a store in São Paulo in the Avenida Pinheiros, which is a store that is totally built out of recyclable material, and many of the materials that are being used in that store come from a process of recycling of what we use. So there is a concern in our organization that we fulfill our duty, we discharge our duty, especially to maintain a balance in this planet, make it a little better than it is, at least. That's great. That's great. Well, Candido, since Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, published in that last annual letter to the CEOs, that series of decisions of BlackRock with regards to investments and migrating to more sustainable investments, there's the whole movement along those lines started to occur in practice. You mentioned in the beginning how this has impacted investments of assets and various decisions in Itaú. So my question is, in practical terms, what all these migration, how did this migration to sustainable investments, how has this impacted the decisions made on a daily basis in Itaú? Well, Guilherme, in point of fact, this letter from Larry Fink was a landmark. But before writing the letter, he already was talking about this, and so I met him in Davos, and this was an important point. BlackRock, for those who don't know, administers $7 trillion. So it is a gigantic volume of resources and influences a great deal of people. But they're not alone. Many other investors, especially foreign investors, manifest their concern over some time, and it's an increasing concern. Now, there's an observation that I think I need to make, a comment rather. Frankly, I think it's humiliating that you are concerned with the environment in Brazil to please foreign investors. This is the wrong motivation. We have to be concerned with Brazil's environment because this is our home. Because you have to take care of your home before anything else. And as when your house starts to catch fire, and you say, I'll put out the fire so I don't bother the neighbor with the smoke. That's not the motivations, because it's our responsibility as Brazilians. Beyond the fact that it's good business. And look, I have two companies here who are exemplary from the point of view of behavior with regards to the environment and from the point of view of financial results. And that's not by chance. We see that in many companies. So what has occurred is there is an important change that happened in over the last few years in the world, which the enormous reduction in interest rates, something we've seen in Brazil, has happened recently in Brazil. With this great reduction in interest rate, the investment capital is exceeding the investment capital. So previously you had the companies would seek loans, especially there was a greater availability of international banks were offering credit. Now the greater offer is investments. With such low interest rates, the investors are willing to incur greater risks in the stock market and in the equity market. So these funds like BlackRock acquire a great importance, as do our funds in Itaú Asset as well, which we suggest that that they acquire this importance. And the demands, from the environmental point of view, recently BlackRock excluded 53 companies from their portfolio. I said 95% of the companies of which we invest in go through this filter, the environmental filter. These demands have as their objective not just the issues of being good business, as I mentioned, because companies with environmental concerns are better companies financially speaking, but because the investors demand this. So I see in my family, with my brothers, when we sit down to discuss investments, I always hear the question, listen, this fund here, is it sustainable? Does it invest in sustainable business? So there is a growing awareness throughout the world, and I think this is the spirit of the time, the zeitgeist of our time. For those who see watch that film of David Attenborough, that throughout the world we create this concern with the environment, and the financial world is a channel for transmission. And it has functioned in that way, and it will continue to be a powerful instrument to drive the best environmental behaviors for companies and for governments as well. No doubt, if there is this alignment with the purpose, as you mentioned very appropriately, doubtless the impact of this would be much greater. Exactly. Devi, talk to us briefly about the work that Suzano does with the communities. We know there are more than 100 communities that are impacted by the actions of Suzano, and I think that is a legacy that you bring in your family. So tell us about the impact this is having in these communities, in society at large. It's true, it is a legacy of our family. My grandfather was an immigrant, and he was always very grateful to Brazil. He would say that Brazil took him in and that Brazil received him with open arms, and that Brazil gave him the ability to, give him the conditions to be able to raise his family and to create his business that generates income and distribute wealth to an important segment of the population. And he always taught us, and the company received this legacy and continues to practice it, that to be grateful to those who receive you. And currently we have a policy, that a very strong policy of withdrawing, of taking 200 people out of poverty and bringing dignity to these families. And it is a very active policy, and we are present in 100 communities and 100 communities in locations, in very poor locations, because there are locations that are basically related to where we work. So there are places that are very isolated and have a great lack of infrastructure, lack of schools, hospitals, and even lack of jobs. And we make a great effort to train these communities and offer opportunities so that they can become independent and autonomous and self-sufficient, and can have income and can have jobs and can have a minimal level of healthcare and education, which is needed for society, so that at the end of the day becomes an improvement in the quality of life for everybody. And this legacy came from our family, came from my grandfather, who I might add was one of the founders of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce, which is where we are hosted today, and we're having this forum. And that today has become a very important forum because it is bringing together in a remotely both Israel and Brazil on subjects that are very current and currently relevant. And Israel has always been a good example in terms of being able to support communities and support the environment. Miguel reminded us of the Cacaeli, which was one of the first mass reforestation projects in the world. And so being here today is an opportunity that we are very grateful for, and that we are very happy to be here discussing the challenges that we have in the future and how to face these challenges. Suzano believes strongly that with a coherent attitude with regards to the environment and society, and coherent with regards to what people want, Candido said, we have to take care of our own house, right? And it's nowadays it's not even an issue of creating products that will sell better because they're sustainable. It's much more, if it's not sustainable, it won't sell at all, period. There will be no market for products that are not sustainable. Sustainable in the sense of nature, but also in the sense of social diversity and the treatment and the search of dignity, providing dignity to these communities. We believe strongly in this, and we work to seek better quality of life for everybody. Doubtless. Miguel, Boticário has been very notable in its investments in technology to make the production less dependent on the use of natural resources. Tell us a little bit about what this has generated in terms of results. I think you're mute, Miguel. Your microphone is muted. Okay, now we can hear you. I was very touched by the words of Davi just now, because I think all of us are sons of immigrants or migrants who found in Brazil a receptive place. I'm the a child of the Holocaust, where Brazil had a very important role in receiving my parents, and I think that we truly have great duty in helping this country that has all the potential to work and be successful, and why can't we make that happen? Davi and Kandidu, I'm sure as well, have their forefathers who certainly came to Brazil and built their future here. And going directly to your question, what we've done dealing with innovation and bringing modern technology, we have sought in Israel, which was the origin of the idea of our foundation, we've sought technologies that can effectively collaborate or contribute to our business, but also how can we bring technologies that can make a great difference in a country like ours that has a great lack of innovation, great need for innovation, and things that could be much better utilized. Let's get the Amazon, for example. We've been talking about Amazon. So with the recovery of enormous areas that are devastated today, deforested, that could, of course, once again become useful, not for pasture land, but for the plantation and feeding of thousands of people. So within the technology, as I mentioned, the issue of the substitution of plastics and of many raw materials, there's a great search for organic products that are extremely necessary. And what is current nowadays, the young people want, they want organic products, and especially they want companies that are totally in line, in sync with the social concerns. So I think this issue is much broader than just issues of technology within the companies. There's a more macro concern. I think all of us have in this country. We want this country to evolve. We want investments to come, but we want investments to be brought with the confidence of the investors that they are in solid ground to make their investments and invest their resources. So I think that's it. Doubtless, Miguel, Israel is a example of what technology can do for the environment and for a society. No question about that. Now we're reaching the end of our panel. I would like to provide each of you with some final minutes to express a final message, if you will, for our audience. Talk a little bit about the purpose of the companies and how this purpose is connected to this movement that we were living in today, concern with the environment. Candido, if you want to start. Yes. Well, first, I would like to say that the participation in this panel of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce and Company with two companies that I admire so much, with Davi and Miguel, it's a great honor, and it's great to see the level of understanding that exists about the idea of the need to protect the environment. I have the impression that we are latecomers in this issue, and we need to wake up to this need as a country. I see civil society as starting to organize. I think that this initiative of the three banks is an example, but there are numerous other ones. The coalition, Grupo Popoloni, and so I see many different initiatives being created cropping up in various areas of society. Along these lines of trying to protect the environment. We are in a pandemic of the coronavirus, and the healthcare crises can arrive overnight, as the coronavirus arrived in March, but they are solved with a vaccine, and possibly in a few more months we will have the solution to this problem, if God wills it. But environmental crises can take a lot longer to manifest, but once they manifest, the consequences are more severe and they are much more difficult to revert. So I think that we truly have to concern ourselves with that and to organize as a society to protect our environment. Thank you, Candido. Davi, if you please. It's incredible, isn't it? Israel is a country that has no natural resources and was able to develop technologies and strategies and methods, alternative methods, to be a great power. And Brazil is a great environmental power that is seeking to develop the rational and appropriate use of its wealth and what God gave us. And participating in this panel together with my dear friend Candido, and organized by our dear friends in the Chamber of Commerce, is a joy, and it is a source of satisfaction for me and an honor. And in this world that we live today, that is an ambidextrous world. It's not no longer a world of just doing one thing or another. It is a world in which we do one thing and another. We do both things at the same time, multiple things at the same time. And taking care of our business and taking care of society is the way to be, and the way we are going to live over the next few years, which is a very positive thing. It's a very good thing for the universe, and it's very positive for society. And to be able to discuss this here today is a source of great pride and joy. And so I'd like to express my thanks and express my recognition of the important work that is being done by the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much, David. Miguel, if you please. I will bring in a little bit about the purpose of our organization, which is through beauty to transform and to make the world a better place and to bring a beauty to people. And when I say that, is to bring opportunities that are sustainable, that are very connected, the environmental issues, the issues of sustainability, because that helps entrepreneurs such as us, all of us here. We really feel a purpose and a meaning to our work. So thank you for the opportunity, and I congratulate the Chamber of Commerce for this event. And I haven't met Candido personally, but I know the work of his wife very well, Teresa Brasher. And well, anyway, let's move ahead. And I'm sure that Israel can be of great help to us in this moment that we're facing now. Thank you, Miguel. Well, I think that we had here a very clear demonstration today of how entrepreneurs and companies that are engaged in solving our global problems can have a fantastic impact in our society and leave a better legacy for the future generations. I would like to express our sincere thanks to Candido, David, and Miguel for being here. I would like to thank the audience, and I would like to I would suggest that you continue to stay with us because we have a lot more content ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care. You too. Masks. Wear masks. Yes, that's the stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you, Guilherme, David, Candido, Miguel, for your excellent conversation, excellent panel. We are reaching the end of our event, but we have a very special guest to bring his remarks, the Vice President of Brazil, Hamilton Mourão. Mr. Vice President Hamilton Mourão, it's a pleasure to have you in our international seminar on Amazon Tech. Please, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Renato, President of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce, I congratulate you for the initiative in this event, and I thank you for the invitation to make these remarks. Ladies and gentlemen of the corporate sector, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, the intensive activities in knowledge, research, and innovation gain an increasing participation in the 21st century economy. The pandemic of COVID-19 is accelerating these trends. New technologies, new products, and new services are being developed to overcome the challenges of sustainability and to reconcile economic growth, environmental preservation, and social inclusion. The biological diversity in the Amazon offers great opportunities, but its use depends on an original structure between capital, knowledge, work, technology, and nature. The bioeconomy is a new frontier to be explored so that the Brazilian Amazon can enter the era of the economy of knowledge economy. And corporate leaders have a central role to play so that this new economic cycle of green growth in the Amazon. The government of President Jair Bolsonaro had brought together Brazil and Israel and expanded the opportunities for initiatives like this one. Brazil currently has an office of ATEX in Jerusalem that will contribute to increase the agenda of business between Brazilian and Israeli companies to bring it to a new level. Initiatives like Amazon Tech contribute to publicize the opportunities that are available for investments in the Amazon and to engage the greatest number possible of government agencies and companies from partner countries. The expansion of the bioeconomy will allow the increase of productivity with greater adding of value to the materials extracted from the forest and the offering of quality jobs to the local population. We are open to working with all the partners that have a genuine interest in the preservation of the Amazon and in its sustainable development, with security, justice, and opportunities for millions of families that live in the region. The decision of President Bolsonaro to reestablish the National Council of the Legal Amazon in February of this year launched a long-term vision of the Amazon with an immediate priority of the combating illegal deforestation and forest fires. In its latest meeting, which was held on the 3rd of November, the Council defined clear priorities to face the challenge in the Amazon, to wit, obtaining greater effectiveness in the combating environmental crimes and land property crimes, strengthening the agencies responsible for combating these crimes, expanding the access to sources of funding on a national and international level in public and private sectors, provide laws regarding land use, improving the legislation regarding environmental crimes, and encouraging innovation and bioeconomy. Combating illegal deforestation is a reaffirmation of the law and order in defense of our country, and we need to regulate, monitor, and audit more rationally and effectively the occupation and use of the territory in the Amazon, as well as the use of its natural wealth. The urgency to combat environmental crimes needs to be allied with the building of a renewed vision on the development and sustainable development and use of natural resources. Sustainability has become an essential element in the generational pact of the 21st century. The private sector has been increasingly pressured to adopt productive processes that do not compromise the capacity of ecosystems to meet the needs of future generations. We are working to improve the business environment and to increase the resources invested in infrastructure and financing. Only in this way will it be possible to unleash the potential of the corporate world, rural property holders, investors, and entrepreneurs. The Council outlined the priorities, lines of actions for the bioeconomy. The first step is mapping the value chains, identifying the activities that can be quickly expanded. For example, the açaí, cupuaçu, ecotourism, fish farming, and we should mobilize investment for small ports and airports that are essential for the expansion of the local production chains. We need to align financial institutions in the public and private sector on national and international level to provide financing for productive activities and infrastructure, as well as obviously research and development and innovation. In a country with such enormous biodiversity, such as Brazil, which is the greatest flora and fauna in the world, with so many known species of flora and fauna, it is essential to invest in an economic model based on sustainable use of these natural resources. Brazil has seen success in the use of biotechnology to generate agricultural supplies, food, and fuels, as well as many consumer goods. The National Program of Alcohol, Pro-Alcohol, was created in the 1970s to face the global oil crisis. Currently, we are the second largest producer and the greatest exporter in the world of ethanol. With the advances of synthetic biology and the enormous natural wealth of Brazil, the trends are that we increasingly have greater number of bioproducts and biopharmaceuticals. The dynamism of our agribusiness will be another factor to propel our bioeconomy. The sector is the result of scientific innovation and is a success case of the systematic absorption of technology and innovation in their productive processes. Our farmers work currently with a direct no-till agriculture, precision agriculture, efficiency in management and processing of information, as well as biotechnology. Brazil knows the potential of the biotechnology economy. Now is the time to project that success in the more objective and systematic manner on the Amazon territory. We need to engage with the production sector, especially large companies, in promoting economic activities to allow economies of scale in local production. The production chains that exist today in the Amazon biome have not yet reached the scale necessary to reach the relevant impact in the national and international level. The leadership will be for those who show the will and the skill to take advantage of the opportunities of this latest stage of the knowledge economy. Ladies and gentlemen, with the reestablishment of the Council of the Amazônia Legal, the Brazilian government reaffirmed its commitment to the creating the conditions for the sustainable development of the region. But the Brazilian government will not play a lead. It will not be the only shareholder of this cycle of the green economy of the Amazon. That job will be for the local entrepreneurs and their partners on a national and international level who are willing to invest with insurance to seek returns and sustainability. The expansion of the bioeconomy will be accompanied by actions to advance with regulation of land use, zoning, economic and ecological zoning, as well as reinforcement of environmental auditing and improvement of the business environment. The triple axis between government, companies, and universities could be the driving force of the bioeconomy and of the other production companies to produce goods and services through the responsible use of biodiversity in the Amazon. The state governments, municipal governments, universities, companies, churches, families, and civil associations of many different types will be essential partners for the construction of economic alternatives in the areas most affected by illegal deforestation. Together, we will work so that sustainability in the knowledge economy will provide a new cycle of growth for the country and especially to the Amazon. Sustainability, sovereignty, work together in the Amazon. Defending and protecting the Amazon is developing Brazil. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President Hamilton Mourão, for your remarks and for participating in our seminar. And we reach the end of our international seminar, Amazon Tech, experience, exchange of knowledge that is brand new between Brazil and Israel. I'm sure that all the efforts of the directors of the chamber and the work of the presenters in this event will generate a great deal of fruit, will bear fruit in business between Brazil and Israel. Thank you very much to all our sponsors and associates of the Brazil-Israel Chamber of Commerce, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.